Good evening, everyone, and welcome to your regular session of the Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas, full Board of Commissioners meeting, which also includes the planning and zoning portion that we'll be including in this meeting. Before I call the meeting to order, I want to announce that some commissioners, staff, and the public are attending remotely via Zoom, by phone, or also on site. All participants joining by phone should please mute your phones when not speaking to avoid any background noise. And I ask everyone in the audience to please do that now if you haven't done so. During the meeting, please make sure that you announce yourself by name and title every time you speak, if you're allowed to do so that the public that is observing knows exactly who is speaking. This is critical given the number of remote participants and is current guidance from our Kansas Attorney General's office. If public comments are allowed on any agenda item, comments should be limited to the topic of that item. Per the Commission rules of regulations and procedures, please make sure that we respect the decorum of this chamber, as well as being aware that there should be no disorderly conduct in these chambers as well. Make sure that when you do speak, you speak at an audible level so the clerk can capture your remarks for the record. I will now call this meeting to order. Clerk, roll call.
Roll call. Davis,
Here.
Bynum,
Here.
Burrows,
Here.
Townsend,
Here.
Burns, we have an absence memo. Ramirez, we have an absence memo. Hill,
Here.
Kane,
Here.
Lopez,
Here.
Stites,
Here.
Garner.
Here. Thank you, clerk. I'd like to ask everyone to please stand for our invocation and our pledge of allegiance. The invocation will be given tonight by Chaplain Ken Netting of Grace Lutheran Church, immediately followed by the pledge of allegiance.
Well, let's pray. We gather in your name and pray your spirit upon us as we conduct the business of our community this evening. Grant wisdom to our elected leaders, protection to our first responders, and gratefulness to all of us who call this city and county home. This evening especially, we remember the life of Chester Owens, whose legacy we just celebrated with him last month. Grant peace to his family and friends as we celebrate his life Saturday, a life of service to you and our community. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the
To the
flag
flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Chaplain, for your prayer. Clerk, are there any revisions to tonight's agenda?
Yes, Mayor, there is an agenda update that was issued, adding item number 2 to the mayor's agenda, which is a resolution amending the 2-year meeting calendar. Those are the only revisions.
Thank you. We just left a special session, a joint meeting with the Board of Public Utilities, where we heard from the general manager, Bill Johnson, as well as the board chair, Mr. Groneman, and they just gave us a brief overview of the BPU. So if you didn't catch that, you can always go and catch that on UGTV, and I encourage everyone to do that. Why is that important? We will be starting, and I would be recommending to our commission to take a hard look at the Board of Public Utilities to see how they're measuring up. A lot of complaints have come from our residents, at least to me, and I know to some of our commissioners and to some of our staff, in regards to the Board of Public Utilities. With that in mind, the question has been posed, whether it's real or it's a perception, is that the Board of Public Utilities may be more of a burden as opposed to a benefit to this community when you talk about a publicly owned utility. When you look at rates, customer service, and a variety of other things that I could go on about, we will be having that conversation. So I wanted to let you know that tonight BPU gave a presentation. There will be another presentation this coming Thursday. I believe it's, clerk, am I correct, the 7th?
We don't have a presentation on the seventh,
Well, the next commission meeting,
Wednesday, the fourth.
the fourth. So I wanted to be clear, potentially, let me say clear, because that's the next item, but potentially the fourth, there will be a presentation given, to this commission, to our staff, and to you, the public, that can kind of start the conversations on potential streamlining and cost savings that could be had on a variety of things. What are those variety of things that have been brought to your mayor? I've been asked to explore the option with this commission as well as with our administrator on what it would look like to sell the BPU in part or in whole. What would it look like to consolidate, fully consolidate the Board of Public Utilities as another department within this unified government, eliminating some of the middle structures within, as we've come to know, the Board of Public Utilities. That conversation was had, I believe, back in 1997 during consolidation, but it was agreed with those individuals that were involved with consolidations to forego that conversation to a later date. Well, that later date has arrived about 27 years later. Here we are. That conversation could also include maintaining it as it is, and maybe this commission being more instrumental in some of the oversight and policy decisions that are being made as it relates to a utility that is owned by this unified government, in essence, the people of Kansas City, Kansas, here in Wyandotte County. And so I'm excited and I'm anxious to get this conversation started, so that presentation will occur next week. And your commissioners, I'm sure, will have questions. And if this commission agrees, because really I don't want to get ahead of myself, but if this commission agrees that there is an opportunity for cost savings, increased customer service or enhanced customer service, as well as those options that I talked about for BPU, they will have that discussion and make that decision at that time. And based on that debate, they may or may not give our administrator direction to explore those options later in the effort to make sure that we are trying to find ways to better serve you, not just as a unified government, but all the subsidiaries of the unified government that have a direct impact on our families here in Kansas City, Kansas. And so expect that. Moving on to the second item, and as the last item on the mayor's agenda, there was a resolution amending the meeting schedule previously approved by this governing body for both standing committees and Board of Commission meetings. I'll ask our legal representatives to go into further detail about that.
Thank you, Mayor. We were asked to prepare okay, thank you, Mayor. We're asked to prepare a resolution changing the times of certain meetings to avoid conflicts, and that should be set out in your amended agenda. The list of the resolution is fairly brief, and it amends the list for this year. And the dates, I think when there's a conflict, it moves a Thursday meeting to a Wednesday, a Monday meeting to a Tuesday. And that's, those would be set out in yellow.
Thank you, counsel. And this was, he's not here tonight, but this was actually brought forward at the request of Commissioner Burns for this body's attention and decision. Any comments, questions? Commissioner King.
Commissioner Burrows was first.
All right, Commissioner Burrows.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one question of staff. I noticed on one of the standing committee meetings that I chaired, I have a November 54th.
Yeah.
Here's the
It's a,
fourth word, I'll see it as.
I just want to make sure that it's a 24th, or is it the 4th, or is it the 14th?
Commissioner, I'm sorry, I'm Jeff Conway, legal. The new matter is underlined, the old matter is strike type, and it's hard to see because it's,
Oh, it's there.
so that's what's going on.
The form makes it, the line through the form makes it look like they're both lined out. And so Yes, so it'll go to the 5th.
Yeah.
It'll be the 5th, November 5th?
Yeah.
Correct.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
That is very confusing when you look at it.
Yeah, it was just, it blended right in with the 4.
It does.
I believe Commissioner Kane had a question.
Wait, say, is one of those election days?
Yeah, November 5th.
It's the second Tuesday of, first Tuesday of the month.
This one's September.
Is it November 5th? Okay.
Right.
Yeah, it's election day, the 5th, November 5th of this year.
You can make a motion.
That's,
Okay, I want, I want to make a motion to strike November 5th because that's election day. And I think we all need to do our duty and go vote, everyone in the audience from top to bottom. But I don't want to have a commission meeting on election day. Never happened in the 19 years I've been here and I don't want it to happen now.
Oh, okay. For clarity, was that a motion to approve minus the 5th?
No, because I don't care if we're going to watch the Chiefs football or not. I don't think we should move any of the days around because there's a football game.
Okay, so
We
there
all
is
si-
not,
We all signed up for this knowing that on Mondays and Thursdays when we're meeting, there's going to be a football game, there's going to be a baseball game, there's going to be a high school football game on Friday. I don't like any of it. So my motion is to kill it all.
all right. Before I entertain a motion from you, Commissioner Stites.
Wow. So just to be clear on the November 54th, that is actually November 4th. That's not a full commission meeting. That would have been a EDNF meeting, right? So,
correct.
so that would have gotten moved from the 4th. And tell me, what's the reasoning for that one? I'm not sure why they got moved. Why are they being moved if it would now be a Tuesday meeting? It was a Monday meeting.
Yes, it's my,
We're just saying we're getting rid of all Monday meetings?
no, it's my understanding those are.
Just on those dates, Commissioner.
And those are for football dates, right?
I believe so.
Can't hear you.
Well,
believe
y-
so.
Well, just for clarity, you'd have to, and he's not here to defend himself. I don't know his rationale, but for the record, I want to say that, this was a request brought forward by Commissioner Burns.
And one, in addition, one is Halloween.
Okay,
And I'm gonna agree with that one Halloween because grandkids kill me. So we don't want to do that one either.
all right, Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Mayor. I think we were getting to the question I had, what was the reason for some of the moves? And are we moving these forever? I sit on the planning, not the planning, but the meetings that are usually held Monday.
My understanding, Commissioner, in talking to Commissioner Burns and bring this to you at his request, it's just for those days, and those dates, not to be permanent, but just for those days. That would have to be reconsidered next year, when you all vote, to look at those dates, if you choose to approve these as requested.
Follow-up question. Is this something that needs to be addressed today? Because we haven't had time to look at this to see how this lines up.
Well, if you look at one of those dates, according to Commissioner Burns, one of those dates falls on the commission meeting that we're having, I believe, next week.
So they were he's requesting that some of the standing committee meetings be put on a Board of Commission meeting night?
No, if there's a standing committee meeting, which they normally happen on Mondays,
Right.
for certain, I don't want to speak for him. But at his request, he'd like on these dates for those to be moved to Tuesdays. And then on certain Thursdays, he'd like for those meetings to be moved to Wednesdays, if this body agrees.
Well, again, this is the reason, I hate the blue sheets if you haven't had a chance to actually look at this, and the proponent is not here tonight, so I would not want to rule on any of this, and remain with the schedule that we have until this could be given some more review. Thank you.
It is an item to vote it up or down tonight, so we do have Commissioner Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, looking at this, and I know we had amended the agenda. Perhaps we, and I mean, there's a lot of schedules to look at, but perhaps we look at just other options for Mondays and Thursdays instead of looking at a Wednesday. I know for next week, that might be tough. That following Thursday, which is a Thursday after a EDNF NCB meeting, my calendar doesn't show anything that's happening. And so maybe if there is a rush and if next week doesn't work, perhaps we can just move next week's meeting and then revisit this conversation just to make sure our schedules align. But there are some Mondays and Thursdays that are open that perhaps could still keep us with the rhythm that we've had for years now.
Okay. One thing I'll say, what I'm going to entertain is a motion to approve or not approve. If this is not approved, I will send this question to standing committee, and we can work the details, or you all can work the details out in standing committee.
Mayor, I remove my motion.
Okay, can you restate your motion, Commissioner?
My motion was to not change any of it. And then when somebody said October 31st, which is Halloween, and you all know how around my house, that would be a problem. So when we're working on a standing committee, I will remind everyone that we probably want to move it off of October 31st, but I just think it's silly to move for a football game, but I'll remove my motion so the standing committee can work on it. Mayor, I make a motion to deny and send it to one of the standing committees.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Clerk, roll call.
Roll call. Davis,
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Kane.
Aye.
Lopez.
Aye.
Stites. Motion carries.
Thank you. We'll now proceed with the items on the planning and zoning portion of tonight's agenda. Clerk, can you read the statement required by state law governing the planning and zoning portion of our meeting, followed by the items on the planning and zoning consent agenda?
Good evening. We would like to welcome all present to the meeting of the Unified Government Commission. Members of the commission are Mayor CEO Tyrone Garner, Commissioner Melissa Bynum, at-large District 1, Commissioner Tom Burrows, at-large District 2, Commissioner Gail Townsend, District 1, Commissioner Bill Burns, District 2, Commissioner Christian Ramirez, District 3, Commissioner Evelyn Hill, District 4, Commissioner Mike Kane, District 5, Commissioner Phil Lopez, District 6, Commissioner Chuck Stites, District 7, and Commissioner Andrew Davis, District 8. As each petition is called, all persons for or against will be given the opportunity to express their views. If this is the first time that a particular petition has been before the commission has three options. Option 1, it can approve the recommendation of the Planning Commission with 6 votes. Option 2, it can override the Planning Commission's recommendation, but it would take 8 votes to override. Option 3, it can return the matter to the Planning Commission for further consideration, together with a statement specifying the reasons for the referral back to the Planning Commission. The consent agenda is the first part of the planning and zoning agenda. Items on the consent agenda have received a unanimous vote of recommendation by the Planning Commission. Unless there is a request to set aside an item from the consent agenda by the applicant, a member of the public, the Unified Government Commission, or others, then the Planning Commission's recommendation on all of the items on the consent agenda will be adopted by the Unified Government Commission at one time. I will read the list of agenda items on the consent agenda, and when I have completed the list, the mayor will ask if there are any requests to set aside items from the consent agenda. This is your time to come to the microphone and provide the agenda item to be set aside if you do not agree with the Planning Commission's recommendation. If you're joining us virtually, this is your time to raise your hand and once acknowledged, provide the agenda item to be set aside. If you contacted the UG Clerk's office, that item will be set aside by the UG Clerk on your behalf. If an item is set aside, the matter will be discussed and voted on separately. All items not set aside will be approved with the Planning Commission's recommendation. We appreciate the attendance of those people here this evening, and we recognize the importance of each petition. We would, however, remind you that there are a number of items on the agenda, and we would appreciate your efforts to make your remarks as concise as possible. We ask that anyone with a cell phone, please turn them off or switch to non-audio so you will not disturb the meeting. If joining us virtually or by phone, we ask that you mute your phone when not speaking to avoid background noise so you will not disturb the meeting. Once the petitioners make their presentation, anyone for or against will be allowed the maximum 3 minutes to state their views. As you come to the microphone, please state your name and city for the record if attending in person. This is your time again to raise your hand if you're joining us virtually. When your name is called, please state your name and city for the record. The mayor and commission are required to disclose contacts with proponents or opponents on any item on the planning and zoning agenda. At this time, does any member of the commission wish to disclose any contact with proponents or opponents on any items on the agenda?
Okay. Clerk, I believe we have some disclosures. Commissioner Burrows?
Thank you, Mayor. I've had contact on A1, opponents and proponents, A2, opponents, A3, proponents and opponents, and on B5, proponents only. And SP 2024-27, both proponents and opponents.
Any other commissioners? Commissioner Steins?
I too have had contact with opponents of A1.
Thank you, Commissioner Bynum.
Did you call me mayor?
Yes.
Opponents of A1, 2, and 3 on consent. Opponents of B2 on consent, special use permit 2024-042. And the last one that Commissioner Burrows said, I think it's on non-consent.
Right, non-consent.
2024-027.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Lopez?
Yeah. I've had opponents with SP 2024-027 as well.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Any other commissioners? Clerk, can you read the consent agenda?
I will now read the items on the consent agenda. Change of zone applications, item number 1, COZ 2024-021, Justin Milburn with Milburn Civil Engineering. Change of zone from R1 Single Family District to MP2 Planned General Industrial District to construct an equipment shop and storage facility at 7102 and 7102R Holiday Drive, recommended for approval by a vote of 8-0. Item number 2, COZ 2024-022, Roger Barrett. Change of zone from R2 Two-Family District to TND Traditional Neighborhood Design District to construct a 44-unit apartment development at 4225 Mission Road, recommended for approval by a vote of 8-0. Item 3, COZ 2024-023, Brian Hochstein. Change of zone from R1 Single Family District to MP2 Planned General Industrial District for outdoor storage at 1930 South 74th Street, recommended for approval by a vote of 8-0. Item 4, COZ 2024-024, Brian Lavery. Change of zone from AG Agricultural District to CP3 Planned Commercial District for an outdoor mini golf course and an event center at 9400 State Avenue. Recommended for approval by a vote of 8-0. Special use permit applications. Item 1, SP 2024-005, Sol Jimenez with Valeda's Workshop LLC. Special use permit to operate an automotive repair business at 1101 Minnesota Avenue. Recommended for approval by a vote of 8-0 for 2 years. Item 2, SP 2024-042, Laxine Zhang. Special use permit to operate a short-term rental at 3316 North 131st Street. Recommended for denial by a vote of 8-0. Item 3, SP 2024-044, Tom Brostel with Skyline Property. Renewal of a special use permit for a short-term rental at 10 South Halleck Street. Recommended for approval by a vote of 8-0 for 2 years. Item 4, SP 2024-045, Tristan Perkins. Renewal of a special use permit for a short-term rental at 1945 West Lawrence Court. Recommended for approval by a vote of 8-0 for 2 years. Item 5, SP 2024-046, Michael Simmons. Special use permit for live entertainment at a private club smoking lounge at 407 North 6th Street. Recommended for approval by a vote of 8-0 for 2 years. Vacation applications. Item 1, VAC 2024-006, Will Anderson with BHC Roads. Vacation of a portion of Garnett Avenue Street right-of-way at 534 Garnett Avenue. Recommended for approval by a vote of 8-0. Item 2, VAC 2024-007, Jane Winkler, Philbrook Trust. Vacation of a portion of State Avenue right-of-way at 7161 State Avenue. Recommended for approval by a vote of 8-0. Plan review applications. Item 1, PR 2024-012, Kyle Morrison with Arc Images. Preliminary and final plan review to construct a new fire station at 521 South 72nd Street. Recommended for approval by a vote of 8-0. Miscellaneous ordinances. Item number 1, an ordinance rezoning property of 1625 South 86th Street from MP1 Planned Light Industrial and Industrial Park District to MP2 Planned General Industrial District. Recommended for approval. Item 2, an ordinance rezoning property at 4110 North 55th Street from R1 Single Family District to AG Agricultural District. Recommended for approval. Item 3, an ordinance authorizing a special use permit for continuation of on-site grading and dirt removal at 1625 South 86th Street. Recommended for approval. Item 4, an ordinance authorizing a special use permit to keep an office trailer on the property while the existing structure undergoes renovation at 1120 North 8th Street. Recommended for approval. Item 5, an ordinance authorizing a special use permit for a non-ownership occupied short-term rental at 2504 West 47th Street. Recommended for approval. Item 6, an ordinance authorizing a special use permit to continue to operate a training facility for excavating and pipeline operations for Kansas Gas Service at 8535 Riverview Avenue. Recommended for approval. Item 7, an ordinance authorizing a special use permit to host small-scale events at a privately operated park at 600 Washington Boulevard and 1308 North 6th Street. Recommended for approval. Item 8, an ordinance authorizing a special use permit for a truck repair shop and parking at 919 South 26th Street. Recommended for approval. Item 9, an ordinance authorizing a home occupation special use permit to make bath products at 49 South 64th Street. Recommended for approval. Item 10, an ordinance authorizing a special use permit for a liquor store at 9801 Parallel Parkway. Recommended for approval. Mayor, those represent all the items on the consent agenda.
Thank you, Clerk. Commissioner Stikes.
Yeah, it's Stites District 7. I had inadvertently left out a disclosure. I've had contact with proponents of COZ 2024-024. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Do any members of the commission, the county administrator, the public wishes to set aside any item on the planning and zoning consent agenda? And if item is not set aside, all items on the planning and zoning consent agenda will be voted on by one vote to follow the recommendation of the Planning Commission. Commissioner Burrows?
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a question of legal, if I may. How many can I pull off collectively? Do I have to go down individually and pull them off, or can I pull them off by number?
Which one do you want?
I-
That was a simple question, but.
Yeah. I know in the past, we haven't allowed, the public to pull more than one at a time. That I would like, there's three of them I'd like to pull off, and I just want to know if I'm going to have my colleagues pull them, or if I can pull all three of them at the same time.
I will allow you to pull off.
Okay, I would like to pull item, A1, A2, and A3 off the consent calendar.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Clerk, has anyone contacted you to set aside any items?
No contact with the clerk's office.
Is there anyone in attendance who would like to set aside an item? Okay, seeing none. Clerk, is anyone joining us virtually? Please come forward, state your name. And your,
That I set aside too early. My name is Becky Boucher and I live at 4224 Thompson Street. I was going against the 43rd and Missions rezoning to traditional neighborhood design. That's the one we're doing?
Pulled it off.
that one's been-
Okay.
that's been pulled.
So I don't have to say anything then.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, okay. Clerk, let me restate. Is anyone joining us virtually? I'd like to,
No
Set
hands
aside
are
none.
raised.
okay. Outside of the items that,
Second.
thank you, but, excluding the items that have been set aside, there has been a motion that I will accept, to approve the rest of those items on the planning and zoning consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, roll call.
Roll call, Davis,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Burrows,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Lopez,
Aye.
Stites. Motion carries.
Clerk, we'll start off and with the first item that was set aside. Can you read that? And we'll have staff make some opening remarks.
This is change of zone application item number 1, COZ 2024-021, Justin Milburn with Milburn Civil Engineering. Change of zone from R1 Single Family District to MP2 Planned General Industrial District to construct an equipment shop and storage facility at 7102 and 7102R Holiday Drive, recommended for approval by a vote of 8-0.
Staff?
All right, thank you, Mayor. James Malloy, Planning and Urban Design. Again, this is a change of zone from R1 Single Family District to M2 General Industrial District. The applicant is wanting to construct a shop to store their items from their construction business. They run a millings company, so this shop would be used for storage and light maintenance, such as cleaning, potentially oil changes, items like that. To date, there's been no support. We did have 2 people speak at the Planning Commission in opposition. Otherwise, there have been no violations on the property. Staff recommends approval with conditions.
Thank you. Before I open it up, you said with conditions. What are those conditions?
In this case, just our standard conditions that are placed on any rezoning, special use permit, or any planning entitlement.
Okay. Is the applicant or representative, for this application present? Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name's Justin Milburn.
If
I'm-
you could talk into the mic.
Oh,
yeah.
good evening.
At the bottom, make sure the green light is on.
There on the bottom of the mic.
Oh, it's on?
Yeah.
Not working.
Just speak into the mic.
Good evening.
Just bring it towards you a little close. Yeah. There you
Turned
go.
on now?
Okay.
It's turned on now?
Yes, we can hear you.
There we go. Good evening. My name's Justin Milburn. I'm with Milburn Civil Engineering. Address is 33135 West 83rd Street. I'm here on behalf of Mr. Mike Lyons with Midwest Milling. Like the planning staff went over, they have the contract at 7102 Holiday Drive under contract to build a shop for their milling construction business. They just want to use it just to maintain equipment over the winter time and just run their operation out of the business. We've gone through all the comments with planning staff, and we've gone through all the conditions. We're in agreement with staff comments. We want to rezone from R1 to MP2. And yeah, pretty straightforward. Future land use plan shows this area as industrial ground rezoning, so I think we're in line with things. So really, I guess that's all I've got. Any questions for me?
We'll come back to you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
I'll now open the public hearing and ask the clerk if you receive any notification of the public who wish to express their comments in favor of this item.
No comments were received.
Is there anyone present who'd like to speak in favor of this item? Clerk, is there anyone joining us virtually who'd like to speak in favor of this item?
No hands are raised.
Clerk, have you received any notifications of anyone wishing to express their comments in opposition to this item?
No comments received.
Is there anyone present who'd like to speak in opposition to this item? Okay. Clerk, is there anyone joining us virtually who'd like to speak in opposition?
No hands are raised.
Okay, I'll now close the public hearing. Petitioner, you can come back if you'd like to make some closing remarks.
Yeah, thank you for hearing our case tonight. And again, we're in agreement with the conditions for approval from city staff. And any questions that you guys have for us, we'd be happy to answer.
Thank you. We have questions from Commissioner Burrows.
Thank you, Mayor. The couple of comments I've received from the community neighborhood group, the Morris neighborhood group, in reference to the building, you're going to be going in right next to a present overlay company, if I'm correct in your location.
Yes.
And they just recently replaced the gas lines and everything across that roadway. The question I would have is that intersection presently is a major health hazard by the dust and the amount of residue from the equipment that comes in and out of those sites. And we have two manufacturing facilities down there that deal with aggregate materials.
Mhm.
When we had a former business there known as the Americold Mining Operation, the community was absolutely opposed to any additional mining once the mine shut down. And now we're back to aggregate business in that corridor, and it's becoming quite hazardous for the people that drive through there and live down there. And the roads are extremely dangerous when it rains, and heaven forbid it be a light rain, because then the intersection is blocked on one side. It's a T intersection. I have seen people travel through that intersection and nearly have a head-on with the abutment at the intersection because the road is slick. The trucks that come out of the one business, I don't want to mention the business, but they have two entrances right on the corner and two exits. And depending on how busy they are, they have pulled out in front of traffic a number of times blindly because of the dust. I went down there today due to the construction and actually had to stop and let the cloud of dust clear before we could move forward. There's three of us in a row. And I don't know if planning and zoning addressed that issue, but the neighbors are quite concerned about the amount of dust and then turning that from an R1 into an MP3 site. So I just want to express their opposition to the project, and I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the safety concerns that I've witnessed down there. I live right around the corner, so I'm quite familiar with the area. I travel it every day. And so I just would hope that planning and zoning had that as part of the discussion, if it was even brought forward.
James Malloy, Planning and Urban Design, concerns about the dust had not been brought forward before tonight.
Can I respond to that? The number of stats that they're gonna have on site, it's gonna be roughly 4 employees. They're gonna have 1 truck roughly coming in and out of there a day. They're not a big dust generator. Their business is milling asphalt streets outside the building area. It's not, they're not bringing millings in or out of the site. So they're not really gonna be generating dust themselves.
We have another business right down the road from you that was put in place to do industrial work on dump trucks. And the driveway is made of gravel and it washes out into the roadway. That stretch of roadway is getting extremely dangerous with the heavy truck traffic, the debris that washes into the roadways. So I would hope that planning and zoning would give that consideration. And I'm leaning towards making a motion to send this back so the community has an opportunity to have a discussion in reference to the safety hazards that have been witnessed by not only myself, but other neighbors that raise that concern.
Second.
Okay.
Okay, before I entertain the motion, we do have a question from, thank you, Commissioner, from Commissioner Lopez.
Yeah, as you stated that you'll have people over there, whatnot, but even planning and zoning needs to know this, that the company that Commissioner Burrows was talking about is, that's part of their SUP, is they're supposed to be watering that down daily and they don't. And it's a train wreck down there every day.
James Malloy, Planning and Urban Design. If after the meeting you want to give me that company's address, contact information, SUP number, we will look into it. And if action needs to be taken, we will bring that forward.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Bynum.
Mayor, thank you. I apologize for being confused. We pulled the item off consent and I don't disagree with Commissioner Burrows, what you're suggesting, but have we asked for any persons for or against to come forward and speak on this item? And nobody did.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Could I speak, please? Could I speak, please?
Is there a question for the petitioner?
Are you with the petitioner?
Yes, I'm the owner of the company that's going to be going in there. I think there's a misconception on what we're going to be doing there. It's simply a repair shop for our milling machines. We're not going to be milling anything near there. We do jobs out, like we mill streets for you guys, for the cities. And the only traffic that we'll be generating, first of all, we'll have a concrete apron and all of our parking will be a solid surface. So we'll put asphalt down, so we won't be dragging anything out onto the road. I don't think we're gonna be, I think there's a misconception that we're gonna be contributing to a dust factor. That's not the kind of operation that we're gonna be running there. It's just our shop. We're not gonna be milling there at the job where we're nothing like the company right to the east of us. We're not an asphalt plant. We have no intention of being an asphalt plant. We simply want to have a shop to do our repairs in the winter. The only reason we'll have any traffic there is for a lowboy to come get our mill to take it to a job. And so that'll be pretty much on a daily basis. A lowboy will pull in, he'll grab the mill and he'll go out and drop it off at a shop or at a location that we're going to be working at. So I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lopez.
Yeah, you guys already are on the other side though, over there on that side street off inland that you park all your equipment and whatnot over there already, right?
No,
That's not it's not
No.
the same, it's like the
No.
same owner to me. Not, on the other side of that, company you're talking about, there's that site, I can't remember because Martini's right down the road there too. But there's a,
we're not down there at all. No.
Okay.
We're in Parkville right now.
Okay.
We are just to clarify, we are just to the west of Jan Fahey.
Right by the gas,
Yes,
right by the gas lines that were just
correct.
updated and renovated or whatever investment that was made for it. That's, as you can see, all the industrial area right there at that corner, just to the right of the UG emblem, that intersection there, that whole area there is full of dust. The hillside is gray. It's not even green. and just from the dust that's generated. And now we're going to bring in additional debris. If I heard you correctly, that you'll bring your milling into your site.
No, we'll bring the milling machines, not the millings, the milling machines
Well, then what's the low boy for?
to pick up the machine. The low boy
Okay.
picks up the machine and
Gotcha.
takes it to the job site.
Okay.
No billings coming
Thank
on
you
the
for that.
site.
Thank you for that clarification. I would still like to send it back because this has been, the neighbors have, I don't want to say blew up my phone, but it's pretty divided over there. And if you're going to have a new partner in over there, I just want to ensure that the community understands exactly what it is you want to do. So I'm going to stand by my motion to send this back and have the discussion in reference to the dust, because if you're going to be affected by it, it's a health hazard. And the only way we're going to get it addressed is by having those businesses down there address it.
Okay. I believe we have Commissioner. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. And I agree with Commissioner Burrows. My main worry here is if staff has not even considered the impact of this, that alone is a red flag. We have to have a plan in the event that something goes south and that the traffic continues to cause a hazard. We do have considerable poor health rankings in our community, and so we have to be mindful of things like this. So I stand by my second of the motion. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other further discussion? There's a motion and a second. I will accept and that motion. Clerk, roll call.
Roll call. Davis,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Burrows,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
King,
Aye.
Lopez,
Aye.
Stites. Motion carries.
Thank you. Clerk, can you read the next item? The
Under
set
change,
aside.
yes, under change of zone application, item number 2, COZ 2024-022, Roger Barrett. Change of zone from R2 two-family district to TND traditional neighborhood design district to construct a 44-unit apartment development at 4225 Mission Road. Recommended for approval by a vote of 8-0. Mayor, I believe Planning Commission may have an amendment to that description, and I also have a statement from Commissioner Ramirez he asked me to read.
Okay. Clerk, save the comments from Commissioner Ramirez to commission comments, and I'll have you read that then.
Okay.
And I'll ask staff to make some open remarks, and if you can also discuss that amendment as well.
Thank you, Mayor. James Malloy, Planning and Urban Design. The synopsis is incorrect. The intent is to build a 24-unit apartment building at the intersection, not a 44-unit. I guess when this was entered into the civic clerk site, it might have been misentered. But the notice is sent out, the hearing at the Planning Commission, and the proposal is for 24 units, not 44. So we just wanted to make that clarification up front. Otherwise, again, this is a change of zone from R2 single family district to TND traditional neighborhood design district. Again, this is for a 24-unit, 3-story apartment building at the corner of 43rd and Mission, northeast side. To date, staff had received no support, no opposition. This is in the Rosedale Master Plan area. Sorry, I should probably advance my slides. My apologies. This is within the Rosedale area plan, and the area plan has this designated for a general urban. So, for smaller scale projects like this, smaller unit count, lower in terms of how many stories are there. Otherwise, staff recommends approval with conditions, including screening along the northern and eastern property lines with both fences as well as landscaping, better pedestrian scale lighting along 43rd and Mission, and that the right in, right out on off of Mission. The entrance on Mission Road is a right in, right out only. But otherwise, staff recommends approval.
Thank you. This was coming from Planning Commission?
Correct.
What was Planning Commission's?
Well, sorry, Planning Commission voted Unanimously, 8-0 to approve this project.
Thank you. I believe we have our representative here. If you can state your name and your address.
Thank you very much. My name is Roger Barrett, Senior Project Manager with SK Design Group, Civil Engineers representing the project. And good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. We have three other members of our team to discuss the project in a little bit more detail, to give you a little bit more emphasis on what's been going on. Brendan Crawford of Community Housing Wyandotte County is the developer, and we'll start with him, and then we'll have two other presenters after that.
Commissioners, members of the public, thank you so much for making time for us this evening. For those of you that don't know, I am Brennan Crawford. I'm the Executive Director for Community Housing in Wyandotte County. CHWC is a 25-plus-year-old not-for-profit comprehensive community development organization that exists for one reason: to strengthen neighborhoods in Kansas City, Kansas. 2 years ago, we made a commitment to deepen our investment in housing south of I-70, among a couple of other places. That deepened our relationship with the Rosedale Development Association and some other neighborhood groups. We've been in discussions about housing needs in a neighborhood that needs a lot of housing for quite some time. And so out of that conversation almost 2 years ago came the genesis of this project. We've been delighted to work with Rosedale Development Association and with the property owners, Ian and Elliot Arnold with Beechwood Holdings, who you'll hear from a little bit later tonight. But we hear both the promise and the concerns around this project. As I said at our public hearing about a month ago, we exist to be good neighbors, and we're committed to being good neighbors. So we're here to answer any questions you might have about this project. Thank you for the staff clarification about the number of units, significantly smaller than is sitting in front of you. So stand open to any questions that you might have.
We'll circle back on that. So
Thank you.
was there another presenter?
Yes.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Liz Mitchell, and I'm here on behalf of the Rosedale Development Association. In the short time that I have worked here, I have learned about there being at least a dozen proposals for this corner. Everything from a gas station to a retail center to earlier versions of this proposal before CHWC became involved. It's an important corner designated in the Rosedale Area Master Plan as a neighborhood center and on a neighborhood corridor. And it's important to all of us to get it right. It's also a very tricky corner due to the 43rd and Mission intersection, and a lot of work has gone into figuring out a site design that is safe for everyone involved. RDA supports this proposal because it provides badly needed housing that allows families to live within walking and busing distance from Frank Rushton Elementary, from the well-paying jobs that exist at KU's campus, and from the neighborhood amenities that make Rosedale a great place to live. You all know very well that wages in the area, like many metropolitan areas, have not kept pace with housing costs. We frequently hear from families looking for 2 or 3 bedroom apartments who can't find a thing within their price range in the neighborhood. This hits especially hard when the family is trying without success to keep their kids in their beloved Rosedale schools. We need to work on both sides of the equation, bringing in new housing at all price points and following economic policies that support well-paying jobs in our area. The Rosedale Area Master Plan includes a detailed economic analysis of existing housing and jobs in Rosedale and projected demand between 2016 to 2040, and found that to keep up with demand, we'll need 23 to 98 new units of housing per year. In the last 3 years, we've seen 272 new units of housing of higher end market rate housing approved and 143 new units of luxury housing approved, all on Rainbow Boulevard. We've seen very little of mixed income, workforce housing, or housing off of Rainbow. In addition to the economic data, the master plan highlights diversity as a strength of Rosedale and states we are better off because we have a diversity of ages, races, ethnicities, and incomes. We want to continue to support diversity and welcome everyone into the community. Finally, I want to note that even though we badly need this housing, RDA did not decide to offer our support to this project until the point where CHWC became the developer and the property manager. It's a tricky corner, and managing a small apartment complex like this in a way that benefits both the tenants and the surrounding neighborhood is a tricky job. CHWC has the experience and the capacity to do it well. The RDA board feels confident supporting this proposal with CHWC as their property managers, and we hope to see them working more in Rosedale in the future. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Is there another speaker, representative? Are you a representative with the company? Okay.
Good evening, Mayor Garner and council.
Can you pull that
Yes.
mic up?
My name is Elliot Arnold. I've lived and worked at and around 4225 Mission Road. We are the property owners, and we own the adjacent homes to the north of the subject property. We've invested significant time and money in trying to create a team and a project that would make better use of this corner. We've exhausted a lot of time and resources in doing so. We thank the unified government for helping direct us towards a traditional neighborhood design designation, because after many attempts at working towards something that would benefit the community and meet the guidelines of the Rosedale master plan, we settled on this designation. As you all know, we're in an affordable housing crisis, and this project affords us an opportunity to improve the land use in a manner that provides well-built, mixed-income housing units to the area. The property has sat vacant for about 20 years. And meanwhile, nurses and med students are overpaying for dilapidated housing stock all over the adjoining neighborhoods. We've assembled, like I said, a great team for this project. CHWC has an impeccable record for property management in Wyandotte County. And as landowners, we also have an obligation to this project. We think it's the best possible approach and an intersection of value and community enhancement.
Anyone else from the representative? Okay. I'll now open the public hearing. Clerk, have you had any direct notification from the public who wish to express their comments in favor of the item?
No comments received.
Is there anyone present who'd like to speak in favor of the item? Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Matt Watkins, 4023 North 111th Street. I come here as a commercial realtor, also as a volunteer, as the chairman of the Housing Authority. I'm not speaking on behalf of the Housing Authority tonight. I'm speaking on behalf of a representative who does a fair amount of investing and advising for folks in the Rosedale neighborhood. And what I would tell you tonight is that you have caught lightning in a bottle. This corner has sat vacant for years. We've all driven past it. It's the only way to get to KU Med. And we know that there are different things that you could put on here. You could put a gas station on there tomorrow. But this is exactly what KU Med needs. I would tell you that this is what Hunt Midwest would come and tell you it needs. It needs people who are going to rent from this property and move into the Hudson. This is going to be an opportunity to house nursing, janitors, food service at KU Med. This will be an incredible opportunity for folks to provide new opportunities for housing in Rosedale, which we have a challenge to do. And to have a community partner like CHWC willing to step up and take this on, I would highly recommend it. I stand here in favor of this and would tell you that a lot of the neighborhood, I've sold a fair amount of investment properties in these neighborhoods. They would endorse this as folks who are going to move in, have opportunities to go live and buy houses in this neighborhood. So I stand here in support of this opportunity. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that'd like to speak in favor of the item? Clerk, is anyone joining us virtually like to speak in favor of the item?
Yes, Mayor, we have Linda's iPhone with their hand raised. If you could please unmute, state your name and residence for the record. You'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, this is Gail Bergman. I live at 4520 Francis Street. Nearby, I also am on the RDA board.
Ma'am, could you restate your name, please?
Yes, Gail Bergman, 4520 Francis Street.
Thank you.
I'm also an RDA board member. I'm very supportive of this project. I was also supportive of the housing at the end of my street off of Rainbow, the Woodside project. So in general, just very supportive of housing. We need it at all price points, as mentioned earlier. And I just hope you vote in favor. Thank you.
No other hands are raised.
Okay. Clerk, have you received any notifications from the public who wish to express their comments in opposition to the item?
No comments received.
Is there anyone present who would like to speak in opposition to the item? Please come forward, state your name. One at a time.
Hi,
And
I'm
addresses.
Becky Boucher, and I live at 4224 Thompson Street. And I'm not against anything going up there reasonably. However, I do think that the zoning that they're trying to rezone it to is completely just does not qualify for what they're proposing to put up there. The T&D, the traditional neighborhood design, it seems to be designed for, this zoning seems to be designed for new neighborhoods and new districts. And they're just wanting to build a building and a parking lot. So I'm like, that doesn't really make sense to me. The zoning seems to, want to have a lot of housing choices close together, and there isn't going to be a lot of housing choices in close proximity. The zoning also asks for quality public spaces or semi-public spaces, and there's not going to be any public or semi-public space in this new development that they're putting in. The traditional zoning says that there has to be a guarantee of high degree of connectivity for pedestrians and vehicular traffic, which there is not adequate sidewalks. There are not adequate crosswalks, even safe crosswalks in our neighborhood. The parking seems to be an issue, as in there's only one parking spot per unit, and there will be 12 two-bedroom units and 12 one-bedroom units. And I know within the normal city ordinance, you need 2 parking spots per 1.5 per apartment. And I also see that the zoning has
1 minute remaining.
Will allow that the zoning will allow for lodging to happen at the same time. If an apartment complex gets built, then we can have lodging, so they can have short-term rentals. Short-term rentals need 1 parking spot for each bedroom. Lodging, or the residential just needs 1 parking for each unit. So and there's only 24 parking. So we need more parking. And then I also hear there's an office, some sort of office attached. Well, the office needs parking for employees. There is none. Needs parking for anybody that may come by. There is none. And then I also read that it needs a basement and or a safe structure, FEMA standard safe structure for tornadoes for each dwelling unit. And I didn't see that in the plans. And then there are function intensity standards within this new zone where it says that in a residential T4 zone, they have to ensure a diversity of residential opportunities and that a minimum of 3 building types must be constructed. I don't know if 1 3-story apartment building
we'll need 2 more buildings in order to comply to this new zoning, the ordinances of this new zone.
Ma'am, your time has expired.
That's perfect. Thank you, guys.
Get the spelling for that word she used.
Come to the mic. Please state your name and address.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Fred Postlewaite. I live at 3215 West 43rd Avenue, mere block and a half away from this proposed building. I didn't even know anything about it until a week ago Wednesday when I finally saw the sign up on the lot. I started researching it. I found that it has 24 units in 3 floors, 12 one-bedroom rooms, 12 two-bedroom units. It's my understanding from your own ordinances that in this kind of structure, you need one parking place for each bedroom in each bedroom unit. That's for 36 unit parking spots that should be required. There is only 24 in the drawing. This is in violation of your own ordinances. Where are your people going to park? There is no on-street parking. There's adjacent parking on a couple, 3 blocks that you're already going to block off people in their own houses. We have a intersection of 43rd and Mission that is already overloaded. The city, in its vast understanding, managed to eliminate one northbound lane off of Mission Road. So it impacts the traffic greatly in the morning and the evening. Now you're wanting to put 24 more units in there, and they can't even put their own people in those parking spots. We've heard a suggestion that maybe they could park in Rosedale Park parking lot. That's a matter of 1,000 feet away from the building, across 2 major roads with no signals to control traffic for people crossing in wet weather at night. This is ridiculous.
1 minute remaining.
I'm sorry?
1 minute remaining.
This is ridiculous and asking for a social catastrophe in my area. I'll have people blocking people in front of their own houses because they can't park in their own parking lot because there is no spaces. Gentlemen, what are your ordinances for if you don't obey your own ordinances? Your own ordinances says one parking spot per bedroom. That totals 36. There's only 24 spots. Check the layout of it. That's exactly it. I counted every one of them. This needs to change. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that'd like to speak in opposition to the item? Clerk, is there anyone joining us virtually like to speak in opposition?
No hands are raised.
Okay, I'll now close the public hearing. Petitioner, whoever would like to give the final word?
Roger Barrett with SK Design Group, Senior Project Manager. I'd like to have staff maybe address some of the parking versus the zoning issues that we do meet the zoning criteria for the number of parking stalls that we have for the number of units, and then I'll go ahead and address some of the other items that were discussed.
Thank you, James Malloy, Planning and Urban Design. So again, the zone, to address some of the questions around the zoning district, the T&D district, essentially it was created well after the base zoning code. You know, most of the zoning designations you see, like your R1, R2, R3, it was designated for either small scale projects within traditional neighborhoods, you know, like a Strawberry Hill, like a Rosedale. A notable T&D project is the project at 39th and Rainbow, with the Holiday Inn, the rehab center, that area. Certain areas of Strawberry Hill along 6th Street are also zoned T&D. So the T&D district is for both small scale and larger scale projects. it was kind of designed to be a flexible zoning district. There are certain performance standards it has to meet. Some of those are different than the existing zoning district. The key one is parking. The T&D district allows for one space per unit, rather than the RP5 where it's 1.5 for one bedroom, 2 spaces for 2 bedrooms plus. So there's a couple differences there. The big thing about T&D is, yeah, the zoning has to be located near transit. In this case, transit route runs right in front of this property with stops, a block or 2 away from the property. So that's kind of the big difference in the T&D district. We've not had a T&D rezoning in about, I want to say 10 years now, pretty much since its original inception. But T&D district is a little bit different than, the traditional zoning district. So just wanted to clear a bit of confusion up there. Obviously, if there's any other questions, feel free to ask them.
Thank you, James. What I'd like to do is address some of the other units, like the storm unit. There is a community room in a portion of this complex for the safety of the homeowners that are going to be there. Like James was saying, we do meet the zoning criteria. Sidewalks, we are improving the sidewalks, and plus we're putting in street trees along 43rd, and we're improving the Mission Road. And because we were working so closely with staff, they recommended we do a right turn in and out of Mission Road to help eliminate any left turn movements, to help move traffic along and be a much more safer for the homeowners at this complex, as well as the general public on Mission Road. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, and here we are.
Thank you. Commissioners, comments, questions? I'm sorry, before we go, thank you. Clerk, can you read Commissioner Ramirez? He is the in-district commissioner where this item is being located.
Mayor, Commissioners, and Mr. Johnston, I apologize for my absence at tonight's important meeting. I have a back-to-school night event to attend that requires my presence. Rosedale is a strong and vibrant community. Rosedalians spent months to discuss and craft the Rosedale Master Plan, which lays out the future of our community. In that master plan, it states that we are to provide housing across all price points to accommodate any and every socioeconomic status. Housing is a human right, no matter if you are rich or poor. Unfortunately, I am not present to listen to the testimony on application COZ 2024-022. It's important that my district has their voice heard on this issue. With that being said, I am asking my fellow commissioners to make a motion to pull COZ 2024-022 off of the consent agenda and make another motion to hold over until the next scheduled planning and zoning meeting. This will allow me to hear from the applicants and listen to the testimony of the neighborhood. It's important I have all the information to make an informed decision. I appreciate my colleagues' willingness to hold over this application. Sincerely, Christian Ramirez, Commissioner, District 3.
Thank you, Clerk. Commissioner Lopez.
Go ahead. I'll go ahead.
Number one, I just want to ask a couple questions real quick. How does Dawn and Vernon McGee fall into this? Do those names ring a bell? Because they are the property owners.
No, they're not. Go ahead. Ian, you want to?
How long ago did you buy this?
We bought the property in 2018.
Which it's showing on my land app and on it goes to Dawn and Vernon McGee in way out in Kansas.
Well, I
mean, they're the ones who are paying the taxes.
Well, then,
That's just confusing me.
It's titled to us. I think what's the address you're putting in on the
Well,
property?
this address right here, 4225 Mission Road.
Yes, if you can see.
It comes back to an HD Rentals of Clay Center LLC at 60 Kansas Avenue here, but then that also goes back to at Clay Center to Dawn and Verna McGee.
I'm not sure what you're looking at on your phone. What you're
It's
looking at on the screen?
I know what I'm looking at that. I'm looking at that too. And I'm looking at our Wyandotte County as well.
Yeah, I can't speak to the city records that you're referring to. All I know is that I pay taxes on those properties and I have been since 2018. And so, you know,
Well, it's very interesting what it says here on the Wyandotte County that Vernon and Dawn and Verna McGee are paying taxes on it, on that parcel 112441. And it
Yeah.
goes back to parcel 902-709 over off 60 Kansas Avenue.
Is
Then
there a way we
that property
can-
owner goes all the way back to Clay Center.
If,
would you mind sharing that information on the public screen?
I don't.
oh, if I could jump in real quick on the screen, I've put our county GIS map, which includes up-to-date records from the clerk's office and the appraiser's office. Beechwood Holdings is the listed property owner of all four of these parcels here.
Where's the mailing address to Beechwood Holdings on your screen?
As it looks, the address of each parcel is what they're listing as the address.
That's funny because on your Wyandotte County site, it's showing 60 Kansas Avenue, which goes back to Dawn and Vernon McGee in Clay Center.
I'm not sure what to say about the.
Well, right, well, I just don't know what, we're being jived here or what, it's just, I'm not sure. And then for, James, if you could read real quick too, the parking ordinance, including section B, that we can go over that.
If you're referring to the ordinance for this particular district, that would be section 27-471 N3A, which states 1 off-street parking space shall be provided for each dwelling unit.
Okay, so it's already contradicted your own ordinance. Okay, all right, thank you.
The ordinance that was listed is our ordinance. That is the ordinance listed.
What about section B on that ordinance?
Section 27-471, section N, subsection 3, subsection A.
Okay, well, I'll get back to you on that because I want to read that too.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner King.
Thank you, Mayor. The young lady in short order did a really good job of describing a whole lot of issues that's going on. Yes, ma'am. And the weird part about it, the young lady said it's a tricky corner. I'm on that street all the time. And my career's in safety. So I think we need to do a safety study to see if this works out and make sure it's showing one thing, one owner, and obviously he says he owns, which I'm not done talking.
Understand.
You know, the thing that we have to do is we need to clarify all this stuff. You know, I don't know, I've never heard of an apartment complex having a safe place for the people, so I'd like to know more about that. We need to educate ourselves on that, because this is the first time I've heard of something like that happening. So that's kind of unique. So I'd like to make a motion to send it back so we can get more clarification on the parking study. I want to know more about the safe room. And I think that there's some issues that some of the folks in the planning and zoning probably didn't know about the parking stuff. So that's my motion, Mayor.
Second.
Okay, before I entertain the motions, we do have another question. Commissioner Stites.
Thank you. Stites, District 7. So, and when it's being sent back, if it gets sent back, as far as the one parking spot per, if you're saying the ordinance says 1 and it would give you 24. So there was some discussion about there being an office space. Is that office space? How does that work for parking? Obviously you're taking, if somebody's there to work, 1 or 2 people or staff or whoever, that would take away from the parking, 1 or 2 or 3 or however many parking spots.
Yep. So, I mean, this apartment building would have a manager's office for the on-site manager, but this isn't a mixed-use building. This isn't a lodging establishment office building. This is an apartment building. What I assume the resident that spoke in opposition was referring to was the T&D district breaks down standards based on the use. So, an office space will have one standard, an apartment building has another standard, lodging has another standard. The T&D district is based on the use, not an overall, not just an overall number given like the rest of our zoning districts.
I guess the thing that I would say is just my concern would be if each apartment had one car, which that's what we're assuming here, there would be, all parking spots would be absorbed. And then there's no spot for staff to come in and park. That's my concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Burrows.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm really pleased that my colleague chose to make the motion to send this back for future information. I know I'm not the in-district commissioner, I'm the commissioner at large, but I've been inundated with phone calls and emails the last 3 days in reference to this development, and not one in support except for Rosedale Development Association. All the constituents that contacted me, and I believe I emailed a majority of them back. I tried to get to everyone to let them know that I would pay attention to this issue and read through the documents again. But at this particular time, the motion has been made to send it back, and I do hope that we can find some of the answers that we are seeking as commissioners. And I would hope that Rosedale Development Association does a better job, or at least reaches out and engages the community a lot more besides just your organization, because the emails and the contacts that I've had, there's not been one in support of this project. And I've got 10 of them on my phone presently. So that's a pretty good outreach by the community itself. So I just want to say thank you for being here this evening, and those that contacted me, I appreciate it. I can't help if I don't know.
Okay. I believe the clerk read the in-district commissioner's request. Just for a point of clarity and for the record, no elected official can make a motion in absence. They have to be present to be able to do that. So with that being said, there is a motion that has been made and a second to send this back to Planning Commission for further review. Clerk, roll call.
Roll call. Davis,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Burrows, Townsend,
Aye.
Hill, Kane, Lopez,
Aye.
Stites. Motion carries.
Thank you. Clerk, I believe there was one more item
There is.
set aside. Could you read that?
This is change of zone. Item number 3, COZ 2024-023. Brian Hostein, change of zone from R1 Single Family District to MP2 Planned General Industrial District for outdoor storage at 1930 South 74th Street. Recommended for approval by a vote of 8-0.
Staff.
Thank you, Mayor. James Malloy, Planning and Urban Design. This is a change of zone from R1 to MP2 for a laydown yard. To date, no support, no opposition. Staff recommends approval with conditions, including drive aisles must be paved, a revision to the landscape plan, which again, we've worked with the applicant on. So we'll, before this gets published, we'll, vet that to ensure it meets the intent of the ordinance, and then our usual standard conditions.
Okay. What was the recommendation of the Planning Commission?
Planning Commission voted unanimously to approve.
Thank you. Is there a petitioner or representative that'd like to speak?
We have the representative online. Sir, you'll need to unmute.
Good evening.
Go ahead and state.
Can you hear me?
We can. Go ahead.
Brian Hochstein with MKEC Engineering, 11827 West 112th Street, Overland Park, Kansas, 66210. I'm representing BS Services. They've developed a few properties throughout the unified government. including their headquarters. They tend to choose some very challenging sites throughout your community, and this site is certainly one of those. There's some key components to this that we wish to discuss, but I'll be brief, and then I hope to get any questions anybody has. The property where this is located is not generally residential. To our west is a water treatment facility. To the north is a landscape company that is zoned MP2. So as you see there, you see the water treatment to the west. That is zoned residential. However, clearly it's not housing stock. To our north is MP2. That is a landscape company, and another company is north of that. To our east is zoned R1 as well. It is zoned residential. However, while there are a few houses, it is, for lack of a better term, a junkyard, outdoor storage, unsecured, barrels, equipment, broken down vehicles. And to our south is railway right of way. And pretty much every part of the land that you can see on our property, including the water treatment and everything north of the railway tracks, is floodplain all the way to the river. What our property owner has done we've gone through city processes and working with FEMA to develop 2 pads that are out of the floodplain. Unfortunately, our owner was experiencing some illegal dumping. A lot of illegal dumping to the tune of construction debris, concrete. People were literally bringing dump trucks to his site and dumping on his site. He secured the property with a fence, which it's a 6-foot screen fence. Unfortunately, that screening fence is not allowed against a residential property. Again, please note what is adjacent to us, and the fact that while the owner did screen the fence or use the fence as a screening mechanism, that the residences are non-existent adjacent to this property. So working with staff, the best way to get this fence approved and bring everything up to the correct status in this industrial area was to rezone it from the residential designation to the MP2. We worked with staff to address their concerns. Already referenced the landscaping. We have some paving. And as far as the site itself, there are no buildings, there are no utilities, there's no structures. Again, our use, we're calling it outdoor storage. It has to have a use. It has to have a reason to be redeveloped. And so they have some needs for outdoor storage. And we worked with staff on that so that there'll be a paved road. There'll be UG concrete entrance onto the site. And we think it will make these 2 pad areas highly sought after from an industrial standpoint. So as a closing comment, I'm here to take any questions. Would encourage you to consider the context of this area, just the fact that most of it truly is industrial in nature, water treatment, junkyards, and that the owner had a significant need to secure their property. And so we'd ask that you would approve the rezoning to MP2. And again, happy to take any questions.
Thank you. I'll now open the public hearing and ask the clerk, any notifications in favor of the item?
No comments were received.
Is there anyone present who would like to speak in favor of this item? Clerk, is there anyone joining us virtually who'd like to speak in favor of the item?
No hands are raised.
Clerk, have you received any notifications from the public who wish to express opposition to this item?
No comments received.
Is there anyone present who'd like to speak in opposition to this item? Clerk, is there anyone, I'm sorry, please state your name, address.
Karen Scheibe, Kansas City, Kansas. This is a first. I just wanted to comment on the fact that if you go down Holiday from where you spoke about where the concrete area is and all the dust, that stretch all the way down to Lake Quivira. The reason they keep going through is because evidently future plan says it should be master plan industrial. Across the street is residential. It's still zoned residential in these areas. I'm not sure when the master plan was, that was a good idea to put industrial across the street from people's homes. I don't know what he's describing because that's not what I see. When I drive down that road, I see homes on the other side and they're looking at putting industrial across the street from people's homes. Thank you for speaking up to that area. So that is my comment about it. If it goes back to planning and zoning, again, because they think it should be zoned industrial. That's kind of why these things keep going through. And when you pass things back to planning and zoning, you just mentioned the dust. So when it goes back to planning and zoning, that's all they'll talk about is what you send it back with. So when that gentleman comes up and says we won't create any dust, they will stop talking. So you'll have to send it back with more than there's dust. So that's just my comments on it. Thank you.
Clerk, is there anyone joining us virtually like to speak in opposition to this item?
No hands are raised.
I'll now close the public hearing. Petitioner, representative, you can make some closing comments.
Sure. Yeah. I would respond to that 74th Street certainly does not have residential across the street from us at this point. If you visit Google Maps, look at the street view and look across the street, you're going to see 15 lawnmowers, a truck, a backhoe, a grain elevator, abandoned buildings, trailers, outbuildings, empty cargo containers. And I guess I understand that the brick building across the street may act as a church, and next to it is parked a couple U-Hauls and about 5 other vehicles in a trailer. To the north of 74th, there are a few residences. We're not disputing that. But our intent is that we're kind of meeting what the context of this neighborhood is with rail to the south, water treatment to the west, and other industrial users to the north of pretty much all of the west side of 74th Street.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Bynum has a question.
Thank you, Mayor. That was actually going to be, my question was, could we please see the view that shows where the houses are? Because I don't see any houses either. To the north, Commissioner?
If you give me a second, I can pull it up on Google so you can just see it on a street view. Yeah, and this street view photo is from November of 2023. So see the subject property. There's that residence there, and you know what they're doing, whatever they're doing there. And as you go further up, there is, some industrial uses. Again, residentially zoned, but sorry about that. It's a little clearer on my side here, but yeah, just so you guys can kind of visualize it a little more.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Lopez.
Yeah, to the petitioner, now what's your storage? I mean, because the guy across the street, yeah, I know it's not nothing to do with you, but are you planning on having a junkyard there? And ultimately, is that what you're basically going to have, as a junkyard there?
No, absolutely not. VS Services has primarily in their past been a trucking company. They've also done construction. Right now, and they may not even have anything there. I don't know. They were selling off trailers, some of the last of their trailers. So that's what they had stored on site. Going forward, these pads are more to be left open, to be frank, to be pad ready. And hopefully you guys would be seeing this in the future with a development plan for another industrial user, especially with the railway access.
When you say
So
truck,
while we yeah, go ahead.
when you say trucking, explain your trucking company.
Sure. They did shipping and logistics for over the road trucking, so trailers. I think there was one view kind of looking back across the site where you could see the trailers parked out there. What they had, and they used asphalt millings on that, and what they need to add is a paved road, and they've agreed to that condition to store equipment like that. But that is the extent of what their equipment that they own is via services.
Because that's what's kind of concerning now is these trucking parking and just the nasty habitats that they bring with them. So that's another just concerning. That's all. That's why I was wanting to know
No,
what you
I should clarify too. These are unloaded trailers that they're selling. It's old stock. Their primary facility at their headquarters is where they are using loading, unloading, doing all their logistics stuff. So these are unloaded trailers that frankly that they're trying to sell, that are past what they consider usable.
what do you have a security plan in play?
So the fence has caused a dramatic improvement to the illegal dumping. That has stopped everything. The owner is regularly out here checking the site because of what has happened in the past. But there's no security cameras and there's no lighting or other utilities we're putting out here. Frankly, we're almost trying not to draw attention to ourselves.
Right. This is okay. That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Burrows.
Thank you, Mayor. This is right down the street from the earlier project that we heard about that we sent back. Again, we have a tremendous amount of truck traffic at South 74th, and there are I believe three homes right there on the northeast corner of Holiday and 74th Street. Across the street is a refurbished brick building that has a residence upstairs, and next to it is a residence that also has a business that has become a laydown yard that is gravel that washes out when it rains real hard. So you combine that with the fact that we're down to one lane because of the bridge work that's being done over on Holiday. The dust just about a quarter of the mile way down. So you do have a mix of residential right along there. And I will state that on the corner where the landscaping was, they've cleared the land behind it, so something else will be coming forward. The neighbors have reached out to me. I've represented the area for a couple of decades, and they are very concerned about the growth of the industrial environment in a residential community. They are very proud of the fact that they are, quote, part of a country environment in an urban core. And the heavy truck traffic on Holiday has wore our road very thin, and it is becoming extremely dangerous. South 74th presently, to the north of this project, is where they're bringing a lot of the dirt for the core work. And so you're seeing a lot of dump trucks come out of that area and a lot of trucks carrying other byproducts from the industries that are down there, and it's railroad and refurbishing of railroad ties and railroad cars. And there's a lot of debris that falls out of those trailers along Holiday Drive, and we as the residents have to deal with that. And so that's the concern of the residents. So I would hope that we would give consideration that if something is zoned R1, just because there's some places that are already there contributing to the clutter of our community, that we'd be conscious enough and considerate enough not to continue to rezone it for an industrial purpose when we already see what happens when it becomes industrial. And maybe this person will do a fantastic job, and I appreciate them wanting to invest in our community. But I live right up the road, and I have grave concerns about that South 74 intersection and that whole corridor there with the waste management trucks, the dump trucks that are going on with the core, the continued heavy trucks that are dealing with the industry down there, and the lack of safety down there. So I would hope that I'm going to make a motion to send this back for a continued study of South 74th, because in the picture I see the Board of Public Utilities telephone poles are extremely close to the roadway on the west side of South 74th, going north and south till you get to Holiday. And I'm concerned with the width of that road and the size of the trucks that'll be utilizing it, that if they hit the power lines down there, that our community will be impacted by an accident. So I'd like to make a recommendation to send it back for a study with BPU.
Second.
Well, and Commissioner Burrows, I'd like to at least acknowledge what you said there. I would also reiterate to all of the commissioners sitting here, this entire area, while zoned residential, is within a floodplain and it is highly unlikely to ever be developed into residential just due to the constraints and changing use of our federal government and how water works. It took almost a year to take it through the FEMA process to get these two pads out, and it worked because we're at the edge of the floodplain. As we move farther to the north and the west, the entirety of that area is floodplain. So, and so respectfully, I understand your concerns. I feel like what you're doing is imposing what other bad actors have done, including our neighbors across the street, on this property owner. And we did discuss all of these factors in the Planning Commission already. So we're happy to answer the questions. We're happy to go through the process. But I would ask any other commissioner considering this to at least consider those factors as well before causing additional cost and time for this owner to finally secure their property and get it rezoned. Thank you.
Okay, I believe there was a motion. Is there a second?
Yeah, there was. Yeah.
Okay, there was a motion and a second. Clerk, roll call.
Roll call Davis,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Burrows,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Lopez,
Aye.
Stites, motion carries.
Okay. Clerk, I believe that was all the set-asides.
That is correct.
That'll take us to our planning and zoning non-consent agenda. Clerk, can you read the first item entirety?
Special use permit SP 2024-027, Caitlin Wolf with Bartlett and West. Special use permit for processing and recycling of concrete, brick, and other rock materials at 6601 Inland Drive. Recommended for approval by a vote of 5-3 for 2 years.
Thank you. Staff, make some remarks.
Thank you, Mayor James Malloy, Planning and Urban Design. I'll keep my comments brief as the applicant has notified us prior to the meeting that they wish to hold this item over for further consideration.
Okay. Okay, with the, I believe at the request of the petitioner, to have it held over, I believe. I'm sorry. Commissioner Lopez.
Do we have to, because I'd like to make a motion to deny this approval, just, we don't, he wasn't, how do I say this? Wasn't really truthful with everything. So I just need to deny this.
Well, I believe the petitioner pulled this item, so there is no.
The petitioner appears to be online. Again, they didn't inform us that they wish to help hold this over until earlier this week prior to this hearing. So they're online, and if they would like to make any comments on why they wish to hold it over, I would leave that to them.
Well, I believe that they pulled the item. There is no item. Because, correct, help me out, legal. If they're asking to hold it over, they're not asking that this item be brought before this body tonight. Council?
That's their request, but that would be up to the commission whether they wish to hold it over or not.
Okay. So, with the petitioner asking for it to be held over, give me 1 minute.
We want to kill it.
Okay. Okay.
What?
Commissioner, just for clarity, what was your motion again? To deny, okay. To deny it, we would have to go through the entire process. Council is advising, but if it's held over, you could vote to hold it over and allow it to come back. If you vote to deny it, we have to go through this process. But if you vote to hold it over, you can just vote to hold it over and we can move on. I mean, I'm just telling you that if you want giving your options, if you want your motion to stand.
So point out that to override the planning and zoning vote would take 8 votes.
Yeah, what was the, yeah, it wasn't.
Planning commission's vote was 5 in favor, 3 opposed.
Okay. Right, you're correct. Just as a point of order, Commissioner Lopez, do you want, I just need some clarity. If you're asking, if your motion, I will, if you want to present a motion to deny this, then I'll proceed forward. Okay.
They have to override is 8 votes.
Okay.
To hold over is
Question.
6.
Could I ask a question,
Yes,
please?
go ahead.
Would it be possible to ask the petitioner what is the reasoning for
Yes.
the request to have this thing held over so we can get some clarification as to why we're even going through these hoops?
I will take us through the process. So take us to clarity. So,
good evening. This is,
I'm going to go through the process and we'll just go through it and the commission can decide at the end. So, petitioner representative, you can make your opening comments.
good evening. This is Caitlin Wolf with Bartlett and West. And on the phone tonight is also Casey Colburn with Bartlett and West. We are here tonight to ask for it to be held over until next month so that our client can be there in person to discuss his project and, appropriately address any opponents that may be here to talk about the project. He is unable to be here tonight, and that's the reason we are asking for it to be held over so that there can be the appropriate discussion with representation there before a decision is made.
Thank you. I'll open the public hearing. Clerk, any notifications from the public who wish to express their comments in favor of the item?
No comments received.
Is there anyone present who'd like to speak in favor of the item? Is there anyone joining us virtually, clerk, who'd like to speak in favor?
We have a hand raised by Casey Colburn. You'll need to unmute, state your name and residence.
This is Casey Colburn, 544 Columbia Drive, Lawrence, Kansas. I was trying to raise my hand to speak with Caitlin there. I'm part of Bartlett and West. Another part of the request for the continuance was when this was sent back to the Planning Commission, there was a part to discuss the BPU trucks, and there is the subcontractor for the BPU trucks that are going to be drilling. This was sent to Byron on Monday, but USC Technologies, which is BPU's contractor for the fly ash deposition on site, is drilling some more deposition holes. And it's a little bit closer to the road. And we knew that last time that the BPU was what made it sent back to the Planning Commission. And the owner would like to be there to talk about the BPU's role in everything, because that's what was sent back. And then that's what the Planning Commission voted on, was the BPU's role. And now it's back to the board for vote. And so they want to be there to discuss the BPU. They are unable to be there in person tonight. So that was the request for the continuance that we sent on Monday, but it was said that it was the mayor's decision, and that we need to have, so we wanted to have somebody at this meeting just in case that it was moved forward. But the client is not here, the landowner is not here, and they to talk about the BPU part in person, which was the reason it was sent back last time. Thank you.
Clerk, is there anyone else joining us virtually? Like to speak in favor?
No other hands are raised.
Clerk, have you received any notices from the public who wish to express their comments in opposition?
Yes. A comment was received from Andrew and Denise Lowe. States as follows: the letter is in opposition and the concerns we have with the proposed industrial rock crushing recycling plant location. Reasons for our opposition and our concerns: number one, increased noise level from the rock crusher and the general industrial plant activities in the area. 2, large stockpiles of recycled material in the area. 3, increases in large truck traffic in the area. 4, concerns with the distance of the rock crusher and the industrial activity from the recycling plant to our residential property. 5, real risk in the increases of future mine subsidence in the surrounding limestone mine land area. The increased possibility of damages to structures above the mine and next to the mine due to the increased activities from the industrial rock crushing recycling plant. 6, increased dust and pollution caused from the rock crusher and the industrial activity in the area. 7, more road damages caused by increased large truck traffic. Question: is more trees going to be logged or cut down again in the area due to the proposed rock crusher industrial plant location? Comments: this is a community that has residents living in the area of the proposed industrial rock crushing recycling plant. We do not want another industrial site in the surrounding area of our property. We are currently still living with the multitude of adverse after effects and all of the problems caused from the former industrial site of limestone mining. The potential of more future problems caused by undermined land in the community and in our immediate area where we live. We cannot be in favor with a future industrial site to come into this area and cause insult to an already injured land, environment, and the community. A more appropriate possible location for the proposed industrial rock crushing recycling plant could be located on Inland Drive Road, where other industrial businesses are located and where there are no residences in the area.
Okay. Clerk, any other notifications?
No other comments were received.
Is there anyone present like to speak in opposition to this item? Please come forward, state your name and address.
Mayor,
One at a time.
I had a point of order, point of procedural clarification.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Since the requester had asked for this to be held over, and I just don't know, that's why I'm asking the question, is it appropriate to deal with that issue first before we hear all the basic testimony back and forth, who's in favor, who's opposed? That was really my question.
Legal advised that basically to send it back, it could be a simple vote, but there was a motion to deny it and which wasn't, he did take it back.
I think he took it back.
Did you take that back? Okay, well, that's fine. But there was never a motion to send it back. If there is a motion to send it back, that's what I said at the beginning. We don't have to go through all of this. You could just make a motion to send it back.
To send back or to hold? I think the request.
It's to hold over, not to send back.
Okay.
Is our request. Thank you.
Council, just for clarity.
Yes, it depends on how the motion is stated. It could be.
Motion hold over or motion send it back. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, it's already been sent back once, so.
I moved to hold over.
Okay, that's the motion to hold over, which is the more appropriate
Okay.
motion.
So to expedite this with the petitioner withdrawing, there is a motion to hold over. I believe Commissioner Lopez, you withdrew, correct, for the record?
So
Can you
moved.
restate your withdrawal, please?
I withdraw my motion to deny. Thank you.
Okay. Now we have a motion
To hold over.
to hold over. Okay. Is there a second? Okay. There's a motion and a second. It looks like there's discussion. Commissioner Burrows.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I hate to prolong the debate and the discussion, but I would really like some clarification. There was a motion made to deny. How many votes would it have taken to support the denial to hold over?
8 votes.
8 votes. The next question I would have is a petitioner can withdraw his asked to have something held over. The commission has to go through a process to do that, but a petitioner can just request it. Do we as a body have authority to not recognize that request?
Yes.
And what action would we need to take to not recognize that request?
Either not make the motion or to vote down the motion to hold over.
Okay. Vote down the motion to advance it, even though it's not on the consent calendar. Is that what I'm?
So currently there is a motion to hold it over. And I'm not sure, was there a second?
Yes.
There's a motion and second. So that would need to be voted on. If that motion does not pass, it will not be held over. And you would proceed this evening with the rest of the.
And it would take 8 votes at that time to override the planning and zoning position.
That's correct.
Thank you. I appreciate that clarification.
Okay. So, Commissioner Bynum.
Clarification requested. A hold is not sending it back to planning and zoning. It's sending it back to our next meeting,
That's correct.
our next full commission planning and zoning meeting,
That's
but not a trip back to the planning board.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So there's a motion and a second to hold it. Is there any further discussion? I will accept and entertain a roll call.
Roll call, Davis,
Okay. Commissioner. Was there another question, Commissioner Sykes?
I just want clarification, held over till when?
Till the next
Okay, next,
planning and zoning, yes.
next planning and zoning commission meeting.
Yes. Yes. Clerk, do you have the date on that?
that would be September 26th.
September 26th. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, there's a motion and a second. I've accepted that. No further discussion. Clerk, roll call.
Roll call, Davis,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Burrows, Townsend,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Kane, Lopez,
Aye.
Stites. Motion carries.
Thank you. Clerk, can you read the next item?
The next item on planning and zoning non-consent agenda is special use permit SP 2024-047. Selena Umana with the Red Circle LLC. Special use permit for an event space at 6,000 Leavenworth Road. Recommended for approval by a vote of 7-1 for 2 years.
Staff?
Hi, my name is Selena.
Ma'am, if you could just hold up just 1 second.
Thank
Staff.
you, James Malloy, Planning and Urban Design. Again, this is a special use permit for an event space. If you're familiar with this location, this is don't go that far. This is the former, I believe, Security Bank site at 6,000 Leavenworth Road, so just north of that strip center. They're wanting to convert it into an event space and host a variety of events. To date, staff's received no support, no opposition. Staff recommends approval and the planning commission recommended approval with a vote of 7-1.
Thank you. Petitioner, please state your name and address.
My name is Selena and my address is 21288 West 112th Terrace. I am the owner of Red Circle, an event space hopefully an event space located at 6,000 Leavenworth Road, Suite M. I am here today to request the approval of the special use permit for Red Circle, which will allow us to operate as a venue for various events, particularly those that are culturally significant to the local Hispanic community, as well as other Hispanic-oriented and cultural gatherings. I've designed Red Circle to be versatile and a welcoming space that hosts a variety of events, including quinceañeras, sweet 16s, religious ceremonies, baby showers, and gender reveals. These are cultural celebrations that are common for many families in our community. And of course, we are open to hosting from other cultural backgrounds, corporate meetings, and even community gatherings. We have also explored the possibility of even offering the space to little to no cost for local community groups, such as the Leavenworth Association. I have yet to get into communication with them, but I have a contact that's supposed to get back to me. But they've expressed interest in having a reliable venue for occasional meetings. And given that it's on our road, we think that this would be a great fit. We plan to serve as a valuable resource for the community by offering a safe and accessible and a relevant space for celebrations and gatherings. We anticipate that the venue will attract visitors to the area, benefiting the nearby businesses such as the Dollar Tree, liquor store, gas station, and ice kiosk, and other local vendors, especially those that provide catering and other event services. We are committed to complying with all local regulations to work closely with the community and to ensure our operations enhance the area without causing disruptions. We believe that Red Circle will not only be a needed service, but also contribute to the economic and social vitality to the neighborhood. We have carefully planned our operations to ensure that Red Circle functions smoothly and meets the needs of our clients while adhering to city requirements. Our operational hours will vary based on events. Typically, I can't imagine weekdays will exceed anywhere from 5 p.m. And weekends will extend later into the evening, but no later than 1 a.m. And each client will have a clear guideline as to when events must conclude. We have taken measures to address common concerns such as waste management, parking, and security. For waste management, we are planning on having a 40-yard dumpster on site that will be picked up every week. And for parking, we have secured additional spaces by acquiring the parcel that's next to the lot we are trying to have a special use permit for. I believe it's lot 4 for the extra parking. Ensuring that guests have a convenient access to the venue. And security will be managed through a combination of in-person personnel and off-site personnel with 24/7 surveillance that will be held after the 72-hour erase period that it has. We are also making the necessary building modifications, of course, pending this permit and other building permits, to expand the bathrooms for handicap accessibility and adding an additional exit to comply with safety regulations. And we are also developing a landscaping plan that will add to the aesthetic and environmental quality by adding 8 additional trees, shrubs, and other greenery. I understand that there may be potential concerns regarding the noise, parking, and security, and I want to assure the commission and the public that we are committed to managing these aspects effectively. We will enforce strict noise control policies to ensure that our events do not disturb neighboring properties, and our security measures are designed to prevent any other potential issues from arising during the events. Our goal is to operate in a very respectful way that is beneficial to our community. We are fully committed to addressing any concerns that may arise and working collaboratively with the city and community members to ensure that we are a positive addition to the area. So to conclude, I like to think of Red Circle more than just an event space, but a community hub where families and friends can come together and celebrate the most significant moments in their lives. We believe by granting the special use permits, it will allow us to fill a vital need in the community, and we are excited to contribute to the cultural and economic fabric of Kansas City, Kansas. Thank you for your time and consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions or concerns.
Thank you. I'll circle back with you. You can have a seat for now. Thank you.
Say my name.
No. You can have a seat for now. We'll circle
Oh,
back with you. Thank you. I'll now open the public hearing. Clerk, any notifications received from the public who wish to express their comments in favor of the item?
No comments received.
Is there anyone present who'd like to speak in favor of the item? Clerk, is there anyone joining us virtually who'd like to speak in favor of the item?
No hands are raised.
Clerk, any notifications from the public who wish to express their comments in opposition?
No comments received.
Is there anyone present who'd like to speak in opposition to this item? Clerk, is there anyone joining us virtually who'd like to speak in opposition?
No hands are raised.
Okay, I'll close the public hearing. Petitioner, you can come back and make some closing remarks.
Okay. I know there was some previous concern about the um, outdoor catering, or it's just sometimes some clients prefer food trucks, and it's just because it's certain outdoor catering is integral to cultural celebrations, and so I've kind of gone back to the drawing board and kind of come up with a contract that still needs to be reviewed by an attorney, but it will clearly outline that if somebody wants to have some type of outdoor catering, they will not allow to have music running at the same time. I know that that's something that was brought up previously at the Planning Commission, and I just wanted to address that here. So we will have every client sign a contract that is, they has to be abided by.
Okay, thank you. Question from Commissioner Bynum.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a lot of questions and I want to make sure I understood. It's 6,000 Leavenworth Road and you said Suite M as in Mary?
Yes.
And I realize that's a standalone building
Mhm.
and you are the purchaser. Part of the reason I have so many questions, this agenda came to us at 5 o'clock Tuesday night and I just haven't been able to read through it all. So I might have questions for staff as well as you. You may have answered a lot of this
Okay.
at the planning and zoning meeting and I just didn't get a chance to read through it.
All right, no worries.
So with regard to the parking lot,
Mhm.
the parking lot, is there any part of that parking lot that you own in conjunction with 6,000 M
Yes, the entire parking lot at this
of
time.
the strip mall?
Of the strip mall, it's currently on city records, it will show as Kansas City Investments, but we have a contract for deed with them as well as ownership to the second parcel that used to be the Security Bank that is owned by another company that I own. I'm actually a co-owner of it. It's not
I'm
solely-
confused. I'm talking about the entire parking lot of the strip mall.
Yes.
And you are telling me you own that entire parking lot?
Yes. We purchased the strip mall.
Oh, you own the strip mall. Okay, thank you.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so you own the strip mall
Uh-huh.
and you have bought this building?
Yes.
Okay,
And I created another business called Red Circle to be kind of separated from those two and
Okay.
just be dedicated to
thank
venue.
you very much. And so with your events, I'm going to guess typically being held during times when the other businesses are not trying to operate, there should not be a conflict on your parking.
Exactly.
Have you recently done any improvements to that parking lot?
No, but it is part of the conditions of approval to repave the
Thank you.
parking lot.
Thank you, because that was one of the questions I had for staff was, can you tell me what the stipulations are for this?
Yeah, and I can also put them up on screen. But kind of breaking down the conditions, piece by piece, per their landscaping plan, they have to put in 8 trees plus additional like shrubs, trees, bushes, of their choice, just to make it look a little more aesthetically pleasing. They need to repave their parking lot and the driveway apron into at least their portion of the parking lot, the Security Bank portion. And again, that's a condition we've had on several permits like this. We've also have conditions for the operation. A member of their staff has to be there at all times. Licensed vendors, all vendors must be licensed through the UG. alcohol can't be provided by someone not licensed. So several conditions that address the actual operation.
I commend you for the investment that you're making. Directly north of you is going to be apartments. Directly north and northwest of you is an assisted living center for older adults. And I'm not seeing a lot of symbiotic relationship there. If I had an older adult in that assisted living center listening to a party until 1 o'clock in the morning, I wouldn't be very happy.
Yes.
So
Part of the reason we have chosen to, oh, sorry. Can I speak?
are you asking me if I'm going to ask a question?
Hold on, a point of order, Commissioner Bynum, if you've got a question.
I have.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's why I was saying some of this is because I haven't had chance to read through the agenda. So I need to ask my questions of both staff and the petitioner. Is
Yeah.
there an issue with that?
No, well, no,
Okay.
proceed.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was misunderstanding what you were asking me. The occupancy amount of this building, either one of you can answer, please.
Well, it was my understanding at the pre-planning application meeting that that would be determined by like the fire marshal. We were estimating anywhere from 200 to 250, but I would still want to, I thought it was the fire marshal that determined the occupancy limit.
And James Malloy, Planning and Urban Design, I can add to that. When a business applies for their occupational tax, planning and zoning, building inspections, fire, and any other relevant departments would be, would do inspections or reviews of it. In this case, since they're going to have to modify the building, it will go through our building permitting process where, again, fire, building inspections, all this staff reviews this. Fire will make a determination, whether it's the number she stated, a different number, that'll be up to fire to determine.
Another question that I missed, you mentioned the Leavenworth Road Association, but I didn't catch what you said about why you haven't met with them yet.
I haven't been able to contact anyone. There was one lady named Lorraine, who I believe operates like a rose garden a little bit down Leavenworth Road, but she mentioned that she would get me in contact with them, but I just haven't been able to really pull that through. But I am really interested just because she said she saw the venue and everything at my neighborhood meeting. She was my only attendee and enjoyed the idea and said that that would be a perfect space for them to meet. And, we wouldn't charge them anything. It would just be.
Now, we can provide you with the contact information
That would
for
be great.
Leavenworth Road Association if you'd like to have it.
Yes, please.
It's just a little disappointing that you haven't been able to meet with them. I'm going to yield the floor because I know Commissioner Davis has his hand raised. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Umana. Do I have that correct?
Yes.
Pronunciation? Thank you. Just a couple of questions. When did you all acquire the property?
The strip mall or the formal?
Both.
The former bank, I believe it was February of 2023. And the strip mall was purchased on a contract for deed April 1st of 2024.
Okay, gotcha. Because I know there are some code violations that are there. If my memory of looking at this and looking at what's on screen, the last code violation was in 2022. So since you all have owned the property, there has not been a code violation. Do I have that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, good. And then I do see that you all, you're in process of securing a contract for security, which is very, important just for that area in general and just for, you all's business. I may have missed this, so do forgive me, but have you all secured a contract for security for this location?
Yes, with SK Security, however, they weren't able to give me firm numbers or a formalized contract just because I didn't have a proper business license for an event. So they couldn't really give me anything other than just a proposal and a kind of a
Quote.
promise. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Um, that's good to know. And yes, for the area for Leavenworth Road, I definitely think, we need more businesses and just, the younger people populating the area and bringing, positivity to the area. I want to ask Mr. Malloy a question. So this was a 7-1 vote in favor. What was the reason why the one vote for no?
I thought it was attributed to the food truck or just the potential outdoor catering possibility, that there was a concern that a noise may seep through the venue when those doors open, or that someone may come out with an alcoholic beverage or any of that sort. And I mentioned that, security would be on present to avoid the alcoholic beverage if we were, to get proper licensure to have alcohol on premise. And then so that's why I included earlier about the outdoor catering, that we would include it in our contract that would have to be signed at the time of finalizing a deposit, that they would not be allowed to have outdoor catering and music going at this simultaneously.
Thank you, Ms. Umana. Mr. Malloy and our planning staff, what do you all recollect for the reason why the 7-1 vote?
While the reason wasn't stated by the individual that voted that way, given their line of questioning throughout the planning commission hearing for this item, they cited concerns about the security plan and about the noise. And again, particularly with people coming in and out with a live performance while food trucks are out there, specifically, which again, staff clarified that during any performance, doors, windows have to be shut regardless. So it seems like the applicant's done some work on her own already to address that concern, but that was the concern brought up through the questioning.
Gotcha. Okay. Colleagues, I don't necessarily, this is for a 2-year special use permit, correct?
Correct.
Okay, gotcha. So this would be, the first time. Colleagues, given the fact that since new ownership has come, there's been no code violations. There has been, and you all have seen a number of abatements and issues with weeds growing and just poor property ownership. Since that has not been the case, this is pretty extensive, and I find myself impressed by Ms. Umana's presentation. I am comfortable with moving this for approval for the 2-year special use permit. Ms. Umana, please do make every effort to work with our staff to get the information for Leavenworth Road Association. Ms. Liu, who's the president, I know they'd be more than happy to meet you, as I have seen them meet and be cordial toward other businesses, but they want more activity. And I really think this can be a positive a part to be added to Leavenworth Road. With that, I will move to approve.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. Before I entertain a motion, we've still got other questions. Commissioner Lopez.
Yeah. Hey, who did you buy this property from?
Which property?
The
The former bank?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I have it on my phone.
Was it Kansas City Investments?
Are you referring to the former bank or
No, Kansas City
the
Investments?
strip mall?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a contract for deed with Kansas City Investment.
So you don't, you have a contract for deed?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, he lives in Kansas, he lives in Los Angeles.
Yeah, it was out in California. Yeah.
And he flies in once a month and
So is his name's on the deed right now?
mhm. Yes, but we have a parking agreement.
Well, I thought you said you owned it though.
We do. It's a contract for deed. A contract for deed is an installment, where it's kind of an owner to owner financing,
Oh, I get
but
you.
it's a little,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Ms. Umana. I did have a relative at the senior facility that Commissioner Bynum, she's gone on to heaven, but I would still be concerned with persons in that area. I saw where entertainment must cease by 1 a.m., but I wasn't clear if that's just Saturday, Sunday, if that's Monday through Saturday, anytime at all.
That condition would apply daily. If, if a condition on weekdays, if you want to amend the condition to have a, earlier time on weekdays, that is commission's prerogative.
Okay, so that currently there could be entertainment up to 1 a.m., 7 days a week.
Yes.
That would concern me.
Yes, but I have it in our business plan that during the weekdays to cease operations at 5 p.m. just because located right next to the venue Suite N and as a Nancy is a title company where I have my office located and we vacate at 5 Monday through Friday. And typically it's not I can't imagine anyone wanting to host, an event on a Wednesday night, till 1 a.m. So we already have it in our plan to not have our operational hours Monday through Friday exceed 5 p.m., but on the weekends, to 1 a.m. And then just to address your concern regarding the retirement home, I did contact I was in communication with the property owner and I told him if any neighbor were to raise a concern regarding noise or parking to immediately let us know and we will make adjustments, maybe noise proof it or something of that sort. But since this was previously a bank, it's very structurally sound. I mean, when we first kind of came up with the idea, I put a big boom box in the middle and cranked it up and you couldn't hear it outside. And I don't know if that has anything to do with the fact that it was previously a bank or how they constructed it. But we did have that concern, but we've let Manor Place and the other adjacent commercial property know, and they are okay with it so long as we work with them if any potential issue were to arise.
I am still uncomfortable with it because while you may have your private arrangement form, what we're doing here tonight would really control. And for 7 days a week, for that to be permissible until 1 o'clock, I'm uncomfortable with that. I'm just going to tell you.
Okay. And
Great that you're having this out there. I'm not so concerned with that, but I am more concerned with that. And if you've got people who are infirmed and all that, a lot of them aren't going to go to the trouble of trying to make a complaint. They may not be physically able to do that. So that is the main concern I have with that. Now, this would be a question more for legal, since Ms. Umana has a contract for deed. What would that mean with her making permanent investments? And that would be great to do the parking lot. Is that legally possible, allowable?
I just want to confirm that this is split into two parcels. Lot 5, my other business Site Investments legally owns it. That's where Red Circle will be operating from. We only purchased the adjacent strip mall for the parking. So we wouldn't be modifying anything other than just repaving the parking lot of the strip mall, but permanent.
That you own outright currently?
Yes, the other structure, the one that's highlighted, that is owned by my other LLC, Site Investments.
Okay, but where you intend to have the entertainment center,
it's
that parking lot you own outright?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe on the map it shows I own 10 spaces and we needed 38 to comply with the city. So we purchased the strip mall for those other 28 spaces.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Stites.
Stites, District 7. So I wasn't even going to really bring up parking until you just said 38 spots, and you just said that it could potentially hold 250 folks.
Yes. Well, pending the fire
Well,
marshal. So we're not.
Well, he's
sure.
not, so if he comes back and says that you can have only 38 people in there, you're okay with that? Because how many spots do they have to have?
For the zoning district, 38 is the requirement.
For 250?
Or the zoning district, the district requirement is based on the square footage of the building, which, yeah, for this use may not be enough, hence why we advise the applicant to get a parking agreement with that strip mall. I wasn't aware that she had, entered negotiations to purchase the property to the south, but they did have a signed parking agreement prior to, I guess, whatever purchases happened between them.
Okay, so, thank you for that. So is the assisted living within the 200 feet that would have been noticed for a special use permit? I believe it is. My days of being on the police department, I went to that location multiple times. I think it's within 200 feet. Were they noticed and did they, anybody contact or talk to them?
Correct. They would have been in that notice buffer, and it sounds like that they did indeed have contact with the applicant when they sent out their request for a neighborhood meeting.
Okay, so here's my holdup. I'm gonna tell you, 1 o'clock in the morning. It may be in your policy that you're gonna shut down, but that's not what we're voting on tonight. We're voting to allow you to remain, your doors be open till 1 AM, Monday through Friday, or 7 days a week, I'm sorry. And then it doesn't say anything at all about what goes on after your doors close. Maybe the outside party continues on until 3 AM.
That's what we have security, and I assume that
Well,
there would be
I mean-
repercussions held on our part for having, allowing those types of behaviors to go on. But I started out in real estate. I run a very clean business. I'm not here to disrupt or create chaos. If anything, through our acquisition of this strip mall and other parcel, we've actually kind of cleaned up this area. There used to be, people doing donuts and homeless, sleeping on the floor. We've cleaned all that up. We're here to improve the city, not to, make it a party
And
town.
I feel like I believe you. I think that you're probably making it, but I'm also thinking about the folks that are there prior to you coming there, right? And their right to their quality of life also, right? That you're running a space that can be open till 1 in the morning. 1 hour later, you might as well be a bar, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well-
so, I'm not, I have a problem with it being till 1 in the morning.
Mhm.
And if, I would recommend that we change, that the hours get changed, until, something that we may agree on, but the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night,
Yeah.
that wording gets put in there that, that it's,
Yeah.
closes early.
And yeah, that's a action you guys can take. If
Well, I wish that was something that staff would have made,
I mean,
not us.
we looked at the applicant's proposed hours of operation, 8 to 5. We felt that our standard condition, addressing entertainment would suffice given what they've stated their hours of operation would. If that's something you want changed, I mean, that's something we can look into and change on a case by case basis. In this case, the condition is as written. If an amendment needs to be made, you guys have that power to make that.
And I believe on that business plan that was
Hold on
read
just a second,
over.
because I didn't ask a question, so hold on. Was talking, so I didn't miss anything. Go ahead.
No worries. I believe in the business plan that he had read over. I actually have it too. And I understand your concern because it's, this is policy that I have that could easily change at any given time. So I understand that. But we're planning on having each event cease at 12 AM and then allow until that 1 hour gap to clean out and be out of there. And we have on-site personnel. We will have on-site personnel that will assure that they want to go home
But
too.
right now, if somebody contacted you and said, I want to have an event Wednesday and we're gonna have this live entertainment and right now, you'd be permitted to say, okay, we can do that till 1 AM.
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine with taking away
Adjusting
that.
those hours?
Yeah, that
I
because
mean,
we have
if-
no
if
intention.
you want to adjust those hours on the fly, then I don't know that that we need to. All right, well, I'll shut up now for just a second and see what the in-district commissioner has to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. So after hearing from my colleagues, Ms. Mana, I want to ask you some questions. So during the week, what is you all's expectation for programming?
Our expectation for the weekday, Monday through Friday, is for it to be primarily vacant. I don't see anyone really booking anything. That's where I kind of opened it to corporate meetings and possibly other gatherings. This is
Gotcha.
really mostly just a Friday, Saturday, maybe Sunday operation. So I expect it to be vacant, just how
Okay.
it's sitting next door.
And how about the weekend? What would be your what program did you all envision, and what time were you envisioning a stop for that programming?
Well, we will open anywhere as early from 10 a.m. and it honestly is based on events, and this is based on personal experience as well. You know, family. I've worked with an event center before, a venue center before, and I kind of see how their clientele operates. It's very case by case. So there will be some wedding receptions that maybe begin at 6 p.m. and conclude at 11 p.m. or something of that sort. So it just depends on the actual event. Some quinceañeras begin at 4 p.m. and, you know, go well into 12 a.m. So I don't have a concise answer for that. It's just very much case to case, but I know
Sure.
the majority of the volume will happen.
Okay, so let me ask you this question. If we were to restrict your hours from 9 a.m., and I know you had offered the neighborhood meetings, which usually take place after that 5 o'clock. So if we amended your hours from 9 a.m. to, let's say, 8 p.m. during the week, and then on weekends, 9 a.m. to 11 p.m., would that work for your business plan?
I don't think so, just because most venues, I know the one just down the street, and I know that's an older event center, the 7th Street Event Center. They have their events conclude no later than 1 a.m. So that was kind of our expectation running into it. And just from experience from working with event venues and such, most people, you know, to close at 11, that means you would have to start packing up around 10. And if your wedding reception starts at 7, it gives a very, you know, a strict timeline that I don't think many people would be fond of. And at that point, I think we would have to reconsider our plans to bring such venue to Wyandotte County.
Gotcha. So I was proposing that just to find some middle ground, because obviously there are some valid concerns, especially you being nearby facilities with our senior population that may not, it will not appreciate louder parties. Even if you can confine the noise, that's still the activity of bringing more people in. However, if you're saying 11 p.m. will not work, then maybe it would be good for you all to find another spot in our community. That way you can get that 1 a.m., but you're not so close to a senior facility and you have adequate parking. That's kind of where I'm leaning towards. So I will go ahead and withdraw my motion and see if any of my colleagues have any other ideas here. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Mayor. And I appreciate in-district commissioners' comments. I thought they were reasonable. I understand what you're saying. You're in competition with other people, but I don't know what their environments are. So we're looking at what's reasonable based on where you are. You mentioned sound checking with the boom box. Mr. Malloy, does this, can Ms. Romana bring in live entertainment, or would she need a separate permit for that?
James Malloy, Planning and Urban Design, the special use permit for an event center kind of assumes the idea of live entertainment, be it a DJ, live band, or whatever. That said, all of that is still subject to the noise ordinance regardless. So,
Well, that was my point. I mean, a boombox may be one thing, but if you get live entertainment in there, then that's another level of amplification. So this is the first time you've come. I wish I could talk to Commissioner Davis. You have not spoken with Leavenworth Road. I would move to hold this over. You speak with Leavenworth Road, consider your business plan, because you've heard from any number of us that there are concerns about, based on where you are, how you want to operate. So
Okay.
that would be my motion
Should,
to hold this over, have the applicant consider what's been said here about noise, parking. What is the capacity for your place
uh,
inside?
again, we haven't really come up with a number just because it was my impression that it was determined by the fire marshal, and I don't want to give out anything that, plan around something that may not be a false number.
Well, I would like to know what that is,
Yeah.
because that goes to the parking issue.
Yeah,
If you can have up to 100 people in there, but you've only got 38 spots.
well, we have more than 38 spots. That's just what the city is telling us to have. It's much more than 38. It's the
Okay.
entire strip mall that extends all the way to
Okay.
the subway.
Okay. Well, that is the motion that I would make. It would give you time to sort all this out.
And then
Meet with Leavenworth Road.
just to clarify, would I speak to the adjacent, would I have to go back and speak to those two property owners, the apartments and the senior living? Because I've already spoken with them. I just, I need a little bit more clarification as to whom I'm supposed to.
The Leavenworth Road Association. You mentioned
Okay.
you had not been able to meet with them.
Mm-mm.
So that's my recommendation. That's my
I
motion.
second that motion.
What, okay, too quick. You got me. To answer your question, staff can help you with that based on the request from Commissioner Townsend and others. Commissioner Townsend and Commissioner Davis, I'm going to ask you to reconsider withdrawing your motions. You got to remember, this is coming from Planning Commission, which is strictly governed by state law. And so in effect, what they voted for, what they sent forward for you to vote on tonight is yes, no, or send it back. And if you send it back, then these items can be addressed and go back through Planning Commission and see if it's acceptable to them to get back to this body, because you're changing the dynamic of what the Planning Commission voted on when you're asking her to do things outside the scope of what is before you tonight.
Well, okay, I'm confused now. I thought my motion was to send it back. It wasn't? It was to hold over?
No.
I said hold over?
You said hold over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lo siento mucho.
Okay, so I would just
I'm
need
sorry.
I would need you and Commissioner Davis to withdraw. and
Okay.
Make that.
I withdraw my motion to send back this item.
No, to hold up.
Well, wait a minute. What was the motion that I made?
You
I
said
thought it was
hold over.
Hold over.
Yeah.
to send it back. That's what I want to do?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so this conversation can go on. All right. Okay. Further discussion. So I withdraw my previous motion.
There you go.
The new motion is to
Send it back to planning.
send it back
Planning.
to planning and zoning.
Okay.
For
I
the
withdraw.
purposes already discussed here.
Yes. Okay, Commissioner Davis, do you follow and concur with that as well?
I do concur. I will withdraw my second for the previous motion, and I will second the motion that was just made to send back to the Planning Commission.
Okay. Clerk, we're good.
Can I
So
ask one
we
more
are good.
question?
any further discussion?
Sorry. Can I ask
Think-
one more question?
No, you'd have to ask it with staff. We're ready to vote. I apologize. Okay. Clerk, roll call.
Roll call, Davis,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Burrows, Townsend,
Aye.
Hill, Kane, Lopez,
Aye.
Stites, motion carries.
All right. Thank you. That concludes the planning and zoning portion of tonight's meeting. We will now move to the regular portion of our agenda, which takes us to our regular consent agenda. Do any members of the commission or county administrator wish to set aside any items on the regular consent agenda? If an item is not set aside, all items on the regular consent agenda will be voted on by one vote. Commissioner Bynum.
Motion to approve all items on the regular consent agenda.
All right, I believe Commissioner Kane wanted a second, correct? All right. We got a motion and a second. Clerk, roll call.
Roll call, Davis,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Burrows,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Lopez,
Aye.
Stites, motion carries.
All right, next we have our public hearing agenda. We have one item on this agenda regarding the Marshalltown Company project located in 9822 Leavenworth Road. We have two elements to this action. The first element is a public hearing to receive comments regarding the issuance of industrial revenue bonds. The second element to this item is approval by this commission of a resolution of intent to issue those industrial revenue bonds in the amount of $27 million. I'll ask our legal department to make opening remarks and present the item.
Thank you, Mayor. You made most of my opening remarks. I would invite Kevin Wimpy and Jeff Conway up to give additional detail.
Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, Jeff Conway Legal, and that's correct. Kevin Wimpy with the outside counsel, bond counsel, Gilmore and Bell is here. He can talk about the mechanics of the issuance of the bonds. In addition, the Marshalltown folks are here to talk about their plans, and they do have a short presentation PowerPoint that is available as well. And so I just pretty much turn it over to them as far as the project is concerned. It's the 27 million for the IRBs. It's out in the old woodlands section. And I believe Kevin can go into the details, but I believe they buy their own bonds, and it'd be for that project. So I'll just turn it over.
Right. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm Kevin Wimpy with Gilmore and Bell, the Unified Governments Bond Council. As Jeff said, some of the developer representatives are here and can address questions about the project. I'll do the usual several minutes about mechanics of IRBs and so forth, and then cede the floor to them. As you've heard from me before, the IRBs in this case are for the purpose of granting the two incentives available, which are property tax abatement for up to 10 years and sales tax exemption on the construction materials and FF&E, furniture, fixtures, and equipment. As you've seen on several recent IRB issuances for property tax abatement, this involves a graduated tax payment schedule, meaning the tax abatement percentage is greater in the earlier years and then is gradually weaned down to something closer to a full tax payment by year 10 of the payment in lieu of tax payment. The performance agreement that's approved under this resolution contains the usual covenants and performance and completion deadlines and so forth that you'd see ordinarily in this agreement. Has the company getting underway with construction by end of this year and completing by April of 2026. And as Jeff alluded to, these are what we call buy your own bonds, meaning the developer is purchasing its own bond here. Unified Government is not on the hook for repayment of the debt service. No credit impact to the UG on the issuance of these bonds as well. So I'll cede the floor to the developer here, or happy to stick around and answer any questions you might have.
Good evening, Joe Carter, Marshalltown Company. I'm the president and CEO there. I've also got our corporate facilities manager with me, Joe Mathern, who was in front of a smaller group probably a month ago to talk about this very issue. I've also got Cam Duff from Skinnell, our developer on this project. We are a 134-year-old company, started in 1890 by two brothers, Jesse and Lester Williams in Fayetteville, Arkansas. I don't know where I'm going. It's been a long night, apparently. Marshalltown, Iowa. Sorry, there we go. I don't have a clicker and I don't know if anybody can move my slides. Thank you very much. 134-year-old privately held company. We've got operations in Marshalltown, Iowa, where we've been on the same site since 1902. We also have two different facilities in Fayetteville, Arkansas, another facility in Walnut Ridge, Arkansas, and another facility in Bushnell, Illinois. We have now over 700 employees, over 9,000 different products that we manufacture. Virtually all of, or the vast majority of the products that we manufacture and sell are manufactured in our locations here in the United States. We've got products that you can see on the overview stuff. We've really been known for our concrete products, our brick products, but we're heavy into drywall, asphalt, on and on. It goes on from there, and a lot of different things that we do. Could I have you hit the next slide? As I said, a company that is still privately held, and a business that we have over 700 employees. We started in Fayetteville, Arkansas in 1981, and have grown there, and then have continued to acquire companies and continue to grow throughout the U.S. If I can get the next slide, please. I think we bumped over one. There we go. A lot of growth in this company. We've, as I said, started in plastering tools and concrete tools, brick tools, but we've had 9 acquisitions in the last six years, which have continued to expand what we're doing. And so we need additional space. We've got ability to build more facility in Marshalltown, Iowa. In our Fayetteville, Arkansas locations, we're really out of that space. We have now something over 1 million square feet under roof in all of our various facilities combined. As we looked at what we wanted to do for a new distribution center, we looked at various spots in Iowa, specifically in Des Moines. We also looked in Arkansas, in that northwest quarter where we are today in Fayetteville, Arkansas. We looked at a number of different spots. I think we looked at over 12 to 15 spots here in the Kansas City metro area, and concluded obviously on this I-435 corridor that we wanted to be in. And looking at these incentives that a number of places offered, that's what's obviously important to what we're trying to do, and can make this project viable if we can get this passed. And if I can have you hit the next slide. So it is a state-of-the-art warehouse and distribution center. We will have robotics and automation. It will be a 207,000 square foot facility on 34 acres there in the 435 Logistics Center. It's perfect for what we want to do. We can expand another 300,000 square feet, so get over 500,000 square feet on that site. And we should have roughly, we think 20 employees to start, but we think we could have as many as 100 at that site, depending upon how everything goes, and if we can get that 500,000 built ultimately. So that's our goal. Don't know if you got any other questions for me, but I think that's a rough recap of what we're doing.
Thank you. I'll now open the public hearing. Is there anyone present who'd like to speak on this item? Before you do that, stand by. I'm just getting a little ahead of myself. You can stay there, Mr. Kendall. Clerk, have you received any notifications from anyone who wish to express their comments regarding this item?
No comments have been received.
Okay. Mr. Kendall. Okay.
You ready for me?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, UG staff. I'm Greg Kendall, President of the Wyandotte Economic Development Council and a KCK resident. I'm here in support of the resolution to issue industrial revenue bonds for the Marshalltown project in the amount of $27 million, and the performance agreement goes with it. We've been working with Kansas Commerce, the Kansas City Area Development Council, and the UG team, as well as Marshalltown, since about January to identify sites and a location here in Wyandotte County and KCK that we've brought here before you this evening. We are excited to support them and the construction of their 207,000 square foot facility in the 435 Logistics Center with room for expansion in the future. As you saw, Marshalltown has a long history of providing quality hardware products and tools to companies like Home Depot and Ace Hardware. The acreage where the building will sit presently generates about 14,000 a year in property taxes. Over 10 years, that's about 140,000. This project, as proposed, will pay about 2.6 million in property taxes over the next 10 years. And once fully in the tax rolls, the facility is expected to generate about 625,000 annually. We're happy as well to note that they've selected Miller Stouts Construction just down the street here in KCK to be their general contractor, and the subcontractors they plan to hire that are local as well. Very much appreciate that. We look forward to continue to work with Marshalltown and their goal of expanding their operations here at the site. We want to express our appreciation to them. As they noted, there were a lot of options across the country for this company. They have 2 other facilities in the country, and this will be their 3rd. And frankly, we had dinner with them, but we've been working with them for some time, and you get to know folks. And the last few companies that we have brought to you, and I'm not suggesting that we are opposed to any national brand companies, don't get me wrong. We like all investment. But there is something to be said about working with family-owned companies and how genuine they are. And I know some of you met them when they went to the Economic Development Finance Subcommittee. But hopefully you can tell from Joe and Joe, they're truly genuine folks. And these are the kinds of folks and companies, frankly, that while we don't always get to choose which companies come knocking on the door, when there are companies like this that listen, they've taken recommendations. I think these are the kinds of companies that we like to have, and we know that they're going to continue to grow, and they fit us, right? So they've been here this evening. They drove down this evening, and I'm not sure if they're driving back tonight or staying in a hotel, but they're good people, and that's what we want in this community. And so we ask that you support this project, and thank you very much for your consideration.
Is there anyone else would like to speak in favor? Clerk, is there anyone online who'd like to speak on this item?
No hands are raised.
I'm going to close the public hearing. Any members of the commission have any questions? Commissioner Lopez?
Yeah, just hypothetical, because I'm loving you guys. I'm blue collar. But hypothetically, what if you just said, you know what, I'm going to chew the same dirt here. I'm going to be Wyandotte County. I'm going to chew the same dirt everybody else. We don't want the tax abatement. We just want to get in there and we're going to chew the same dirt as everybody else and jump on the team with everybody. It's just completely hypothetical. What would you say to that?
Commissioner Lopez, thank you for your question. I think it's a great question. I don't know, but boy, there's a lot of incentives in a lot of other spots, and we'd have to reconsider where we are.
Is that why you're here? Is just for that great incentive? I mean, like when 10 years when your abatement's up, you're going to stay here, or you're going to roll out somewhere else where somebody else might have another incentive?
We haven't moved from any of the other spots, and we've gotten incentives to be in other spots
Right,
before.
right. But I
It's
mean,
a great
and you guys
question.
would be great here because there's already, I'm like in the last meeting, I want to send so many concrete boys your way right now. But yeah, that was just a hypothetical question though for you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Bynum?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm debating whether to make a comment, but I think I'll stick with my original question, and that is, what are we voting on first? Is there one item to vote on, 2 items to vote on? What are we doing?
Just
One vote, and it is the adoption of a resolution of the intent to issue IRBs in the amount of
Yes.
27 million. So moved, Bynum.
Okay. Before I entertain that motion, just to follow up, Council.
Oh, no, I was
Okay.
agreeing with you.
Just to follow up, I think that Commissioner Lopez hit on something, and he hit on something because that has been the experience, and I'm not talking about your company. And I appreciate you saying that usually once you get somewhere, you anchor there, but there's some companies that don't. And it would be good for us to look, when we look at these development agreements, how do we including the development agreements, clawbacks are part of the incentives that require businesses to either stay in this location for a certain period of time after um, those incentives are up, um, and also making sure that, because I've seen some companies after their incentives up, they come back and they want to ask this commission for more, and they never pay their fair share, like the rest of our businesses and entrepreneurs and more importantly, our residents are paying. And if you really want to be a good neighbor, and this is not to you, but to anybody out there, we want you to really commit to being a good neighbor. And so when we think about these development agreements, I would just ask that we get creative, like we do on giving these incentives and abatements, get just as creative in making sure that these businesses stay right here and anchor themselves in Wyandotte County with clawback incentives as well. So I think that would be great. And I know that's what a lot of our residents would appreciate, especially when you talk about expanding our tax base and relieving the burden on some of our most overburdened residents, as we've seen when it comes to property taxes. But there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Oh, Commissioner Bynum.
Well, Mayor, since you brought it up, I will make my statement. Because if we want different economic development policies, and I have said this to you in your office, then we need to have the Economic Development and Finance Committee sit as a committee, work with our staff and decide what we want our economic development policies to be. What we have right now are commission adopted economic development policies. Those are the policies we have followed for this company and all those that have come before them. If that is not what we want, then we, the commission, needs to change it. But changing it from here, the dais, in my opinion, is not good government. Thank you.
I totally agree with you, Commissioner, and thank you for that. I support that, your recommendation. I think that the conversation that needs to happen, my comments weren't to change anything here on the dais as to give you a call of action to do just what you described. And so hopefully we'll move what you just described and your recommendation forward at some point beyond tonight's meeting. So thank you for that. Commissioner Hill?
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a quick question on section 211 on page 4 of this document, which has to do with no abatement on appraised value of future facility additions. So my question to the petitioner is there possibly future facility plans?
We don't have anything drawn up. We've drawn up the 207,000 square foot facility, but part of the reason to buy the 34 acres so that we've got that ability to expand. We own, as an example, on our industrial drive site in Fayetteville, Arkansas, we've got a 15-acre site. It started as I think a 45 or 50,000 square foot facility. It's now over 200,000 square feet. The facility that we've got on Armstrong Avenue is a 30-acre site that started out as roughly an 80,000 square foot facility. So we don't have anything drawn up, but we know that we have the basic outlay where we know that we can put another 300,000 square feet onto that 207,000 we're going to start with. Does that answer your question?
I think it does.
And then as with regard to the specifics of the legalities of the or the specific part of the agreement, if you've got another question there, I might let this young gentleman answer that instead of me.
Right. Yeah. Hi, Commissioner. Again, Kevin Wimpy, Gilmore and Bell. We're your bond counsel and the primary drafters of this agreement. So, and thanks for reading it, first of all, and going through. I understand your question, though, might indicate that for an addition to the facility would foreclose the ability of this governing body to grant an abatement. Under the statute contemplates you can only grant this property tax incentive to what's financed by an industrial revenue bond issue. And so what the section 211 that you pointed out gets at is presuming this project proceeds as expected, it's financed by the $27 million IRB issuance. Should they expand or put up another facility on the site, it would not be abated. It would be fully on the tax rolls, but for you approving an additional incentive for that addition. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
It makes much better sense. Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Burrows.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to acknowledge the fact that a good point of order has been made in reference to EcoDevo policy being the directive from the Diet. We do have a new economic development director, and I would entertain an opportunity through the administrator to have an opportunity for that director to meet with the Economic Development Committee and share their proposals. But I do want to state that there has been some changes that may not be clarified. The clawback, it's really not a clawback, it's a punitive measure, and that deals with LBE, MBE, and WBE. If they do not meet their percentages, their abatement cost goes up. The abated amount of monies will come to us at a higher rate. And I do want to acknowledge the fact that since I believe it's 2 developments back, our administrator went back and looked at the amount of abated monies that were the pilot and revisited the pilot and restructured it to be more friendly to the unified government and to the taxpayers than what it was previously. So there is some progress being made, and I do appreciate that you have given Wyandotte County a chance to call home again. And I'm excited to have you, and I look forward to future expansion. And I do encourage you to continue to meet the WBE and MBE requirements in the proposal. But I'd also encourage you to hire as many people out of our community as you possibly can. That would be of great benefit to us and help us support your projects moving forward. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. I believe there is a motion and a second. Clerk, roll call.
Roll call, Davis,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Burrows,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Kane, Lopez,
Aye.
Stites, motion carries.
Thank you. That takes us to the administrator's agenda. The first item is approval of an ordinance and resolution reallocating ARPA funds. I'll ask our administrator, David Johnson, to make the remarks.
A couple of months ago, commissioners, we've been asked to take a look about what's the outstanding ARPA funds that are available for redistribution, and working with our consultant, iParametrics, and particularly under the guidance of our CFO, Dr. Knieven, we've crafted a recommendation for your consideration to utilize those outstanding funds. And we'll have Dr. Knieven step up and guide us through the process, please.
Shelley Knieven, Chief Financial Officer. And in your packet, there is a memo that outlines what the recommendations are. We've spent time since I came on board to reconcile and get an update of where we were with all of the ARPA projects. We provided an update to the commission once before. And so this is a follow-up to that. We have identified a number of items that we will not be expending the dollars, so they're available for reallocation. And then we also worked with our outside consultants with iParametrics, who's monitoring the subrecipients, because that was an area where we had several that were not looking like they were going to get their money spent on time. So we've worked very aggressively with each one of those parties to get a plan together so that they can expend their funds. Through that conversation, we actually have 9 of the agencies that are essentially done with their work and the projects that they were approved for. When this is all wrapped up, we'll give you an update on the specifics of how many people they served and what was accomplished. But we did have one agency, Friends of Yates, who just based on their assessment of the projects that were approved and the cost that they were going to have, that they were going to underspend their allocation by about $57,680.50. And so those dollars we're recommending would then be allocated over to a grant match pool. As the county administrator and I looked at all of this in conjunction really with all the directors and what is possible and eligible, we identified some really high priorities in terms of what we recommend these dollars be reallocated to. And we have about 8.8 million that we can reallocate. And the list is outlined there. I'm glad to answer questions to the best of my ability for any of those. I know some of our department directors are still here that could answer more specifics that you might have. But we feel very positive that with all of these, we will be able to meet the requirement that we have to get the dollars encumbered by the end of this year. So we have to get them under contract. And that was a real driving force for looking at each one of these so that we make sure we don't lose $1 of our ARPA funds. And so we were looking for things that were A, eligible, and then B, could get contracted by the end of this year so that we would not lose those dollars. The key with that is if we pick something, okay, and we don't hit that deadline, we don't get a second chance at it. So we will be working very specifically to make sure all of these initiatives, if approved by the mayor and the commission, do move forward. And if anything comes up between now and then, we'll be back before you because we, again, want to make sure that we get all of these dollars allocated and under contract and reinvested in the community. So I'm glad to answer questions about any of the specifics.
Thank you, Commissioner Bynum.
Thank you. Question, Dr. Knieven, when we adopted our budget, what was the dollar amount of the very small neighborhood group grants that was cut?
It was about 39,000.
So is there a reason why we can't take some of this 57,687 excess and allocate it to those neighborhood grants? Couldn't we encumber that?
So not technically. We talked about that actually. What we would need to do, and we could those dollars be eligible for neighborhoods with qualified census tracts? Okay, yes. But we would have to get what the application is, get it awarded, and whatever they're doing, like they've done monument signs, for example, or they've done a cleanup day, all of that has to be, that's what has to be under contract by December. So we were a little concerned with that kind of runway that we weren't confident that we would get there and we didn't want to lose those dollars. I think there's been some conversation around some other programs that are available through the state that we're hoping to connect some of these neighborhood groups to, but we did talk about that. It's just the concern of timing.
And I don't mean to belabor it, but if we were able to, as we are suggesting here, encumber any of these dollars in a way that is eligible, does it not free up a dollar somewhere else that could then wouldn't have to be so technically in line with the ARPA? Does that make sense at all, that question I just
understand
asked?
what you're asking, and I'm not sure that the answer would be a clear yes. I think it would be not likely because it would depend on a specific. So, you know, in order to fund that program, I'm not sure what we would fund with ARPA dollars in order to do that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like the details, the devil's in the details. But
And I get it. The reason why it confuses me a little bit is because when we, for example, are going to do a park project or a transit bench that might be at the Legends.
none of the transit
Okay.
shelters, and they're not
Those
the
are
benches,
all,
it's the shelters. but
okay, so
they're
those are all
in
in the qualified census tracts. Any park, any infrastructure, any ARPA dollar that we're spending on government items.
So the ones that would be, and it gets confusing, but there's revenue replacement.
Right.
Okay. And so the modular building for animal control is one that's not in a qualified census tract per se. And then here. The rest of these are all, oh, and the,
Eisenhower. Community
I've got
Center.
it, yeah, on Eisenhower, the consultant said that there's an argument to be made as to why that can qualify because of its neighborhood function and its proximity to qualified census tracts. So they felt like that was fine for ARPA straight up. But our UTV for downtown patrol and our animal control building technically are, well, the downtown vehicle would be in the census tract, but the animal control wouldn't. And it can qualify for some of our revenue replacement dollars.
And I'm truly not trying to be argumentative, but couldn't it be revenue replacement? Couldn't it be designated as revenue replacement and then used the way we need to use it?
Yes. Yes. It
So
could be.
that would be a path.
It would. We'd need to figure out what on this list or whatever new list.
Right,
comes
and
up,
I
we
was
would
just
adjust.
suggesting, I think you said 39,000. So I was just suggesting, part of the reason why I bring it up is because on the night that we adopted the budget, that is the one thing that multiple people stood up to ask us, please don't do this.
That's right.
And so if we had a path to take 39,000 of this 57,687 excess
Yeah,
as revenue replacement.
I think the best way, the cleanest way to do that would be to modify the amount that we set aside for grant match. And then set aside the 39 or just round up to 40,000 that would go towards that program.
Well, and I would ask my fellow commissioners to support that. I'm just asking it and asking my commissioner colleagues to support it so that we can return the neighborhood grants everywhere we go. We're asked about, and you were asked about it last week at Livable Neighborhoods. I mean, we're asked about it continuously. So that would be a request of my colleagues.
Thank you. Commissioner Kane.
Well, we know where I'm going with this. You know, we just spent over $2 million for the parks east of 635. And here we are, we got some ARPA money. And all we were asking for this year was, we already have 250,000, another 300,000 this year, another 300,000 next year, so we could work, Angel could work with the school district, which she has multiple times. And here we are. Now, if you don't think you feel left out, because some of you guys went to those ribbon cutting ceremonies, and I'm getting calls say, hey, that stuff looked really nice. How come we don't have anything like that? So I don't know why we couldn't use some of that ARPA money to get the things that we don't have what the rest of the community has. And yet we paid a boatload of taxes. And I don't know how we sat there every year for 19 years and said, yeah, King, we love you, but you're never going to get that park. And here we are, we've got some monies, and I think we should guide some of that money that way. And that was the goal before we went revenue neutral. Well, now we're here, and I think there's some money to be used. Correct me if I'm wrong. Can we use that money for that?
We could use some of this money. All of this money does not qualify for revenue replacement, but some of it does. So we could. Yeah, and the two park projects that were on here were because the commission approved 4 other community centers to get HVAC, and this was one community center that didn't have HVAC as a funded project. So, but it was a requested one to get all of them kind of on the same footing.
I
for
want all of them to
existing.
have air conditioning. I love the parks that are out there. I mean, I just want one. And then something else, the Sunfire Golf Course is falling apart. It's disgusting. Somebody's going to get hurt. And we could go out there and wouldn't have to spend that much money to revitalize that building, because we're losing golf tournaments, we're losing weddings, we're losing all kinds of things because it's terrible. It's one of the nicest golf courses in the community and the worst clubhouse in the entire community. So these are things that I wish I wasn't sitting here right now. You know, when we look at the situation, they say, yeah, you know, Kane, you guys pay the boatload of taxes, you pay them on time, you do what you're supposed to do. And then all of a sudden, everyone else gets a park. And what they've done is when you get to 435, they turn their back facing this way because they could care less what's going on in District 5. District 5 deserves a park. And I'm tired of bringing it up. We say we need to take care of this area, we need to take care of that area. Well, don't forget those are out west. I'll never apologize for the work or the development that's happened out west because we wouldn't be where we're at if we didn't have that development out west.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Madam CFO. A couple of questions. I'll start with the broader one. There was a competitive process. I'm trying to see who's here tonight that was on that. Commissioner Bynum. Me, I think that's it. There are others, but the ARPA process that we went through, we got the money. It was a competitive process. So my question is, as we consider other alternatives not listed here, these things have to have qualified for ARPA, right?
The majority of them, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So specifically on page 2 of the memo, we've got $711,165 set for Boston Daniels improvements. I spoke with our parks director today, and there were several specifics that was to cover: site work, erosion, because there are a lot of slopes on that park, a picnic shelter, sidewalks, landscaping, and now I can't read my writing, new playground equipment. Okay. Picnic shelter, I was wondering about that. I wish we'd have more time to talk more as a committee about this, because while I want to see improvements to the park, some of that could be achieved by better grooming. We do need that stonework done. So hopefully that would be under some of these items here listed. But the picnic shelter, do we have any idea how much money that is? And the reason I'm honing in on that, I live within walking distance of that park. I don't see a lot of usage. So I'm wondering if that would be the best use of that money for a shelter. I don't know how much that would run, because there are other uses for that still in Parks and Rec, still in the qualified census tract, that might benefit. There's a crack in the basketball court at Edgerton, for example. So that's the question I was asking. Also, transit shelters, 30 in qualified census tract. I'd like to hear some more detail about where that would be, because I'm thinking about one of the bus routes that was cut. Is it possible that some of this money would be sufficient to reinstate the bus route that was cut? So those are my questions. Thank you.
So let's take them maybe in order. And so we'll have the Parks Department talk about Boston Daniels.
Good evening, Commissioners, Mayor, and County Administration. So to talk a little bit about the Boston Daniels project, I think several of you have been engaged and know that there's been a lot of community engagement with Boston Daniels Corporation and also staff in the community as well. To answer your question about the picnic shelter, it was estimated to be about $70,000 in the engineer's
estimate of probable cost. I will say that everything that went into the final scope that went out for RFP was prioritized based off of community input, based off of several community input sessions that the Boston Daniels Corporation in partnership with staff and community held together. So I think that answered those two questions. And I'm not sure if Dr. Knieven shared this, and the reason we are requesting funding through ARPA is because those funds were originally community development block grant dollars. However, I think Dr. Knieven can speak a little bit better to that. Community development block grant dollars did have some guidelines as it related to percentage of dollars spent on public infrastructure projects. And I know our interim Kay Sharp, not to speak for her, but has come in and done a lot of really great work trying to figure out all the requirements and make sure that the unified government was meeting deadlines to get the dollar spent out. So we did work with community development to kind of achieve some of those goals. And realizing that the Boston Daniels project would not have met those timelines. And so that was not a project that was feasible to do with those dollars. And knowing that it is an active project and we do have budget dollars as well supporting that project, we thought that ARPA would be a good request to kind of replace those funds and get the project over the finish line.
Okay. Question about this, because even though you said there was a lot of community input, and I remember some of this, I wonder, was there any consideration given when they are trying to decide what to put there as to how many people are really using that park? That's why I question specifically the shelter house. And if that's $70,000, this leads to my next question. Is it possible to use, say, let's just say for argument's sake, we were going to use that $70,000 on another park? Must it go to these particular proposed assigned expenses? Could we, if we decided, use it for something else, which is kind of what I think Commissioner Bynum was recommending for the MBR funds that have been cut? Would that qualify? Could we do that?
So if we start substituting things in, there's rules about how much of this particular ARPA money can be used and has to be straight up ARPA qualified versus what can be revenue replacement. And so we do have some flexibility there in terms of moving things around, but it's limited. So it would just depend on the direction that the commission gave us, and we'd have to rework the numbers. It's not like we can say the whole $8.8 million can be reallocated to anything, because that's not accurate. And unfortunately, I have a rough estimate, but I don't have the final number from our consultants. But it's a healthy number. It's about half of this money could be designated as revenue replacement. We recommended the $1 million go towards the county general fund balance, understanding that we believe we will likely have an issue with jail costs and dispatch. So that's an example of that wouldn't necessarily be straight up ARPA, but it would be revenue replacement. So there's some of these things that have taken some of those dollars. So it would depend on the direction that you all gave us. And we could rework those numbers and come back in short fashion. We're on a time ticker, so maybe what we could do is see if there's perhaps any consensus on some of these things to move some of them forward, just because I'm concerned about, you know, not every project is like Boston Daniels that's already gone through the procurement process. And they really ran into an issue where their funding source has issues with, they overuse some of the dollars for park funds. And so HUD is having them rework. They have a whole process they have to go through, and it'll be fine for them to do that. But that made it so that we couldn't proceed with this particular project. So there was like an extenuating circumstance on that one. But if there was others on here that you think would be worthy to move forward on, I'd ask for your consideration on that. One of those in particular is that the health department has requested funds. It's the very first one on there. It does qualify for ARPA straight up. And that's what they call it, ARPA straight up. But we've got TB cases that have come up in our county, and they're wanting to get ahead of that and be proactive. And so that's one area where we'd like to be able to move ahead. So we could maybe perhaps get some consensus on some of these, and then maybe if there's some more questions on others, that we could bring those back at the next meeting. We could certainly take it in pieces and parts, just offering as a possible solution.
Okay, that sounds good. While you're at the mic and the director of transportation is here, could you talk a little bit about these transit shelters?
Yes, Commissioner Townsend. Desiree Bush, Director of the Unified Government Transportation Department. We are immensely excited to have the potential projects in front of you. Number one, bus shelters. You all see it throughout our community. We have some dilapidated bus shelters, and they need to be replaced. Majority of them have been in place for over 10 years. We have quite a few that's been in place for roughly 15. This project does qualify for ARPA funding. It will give us the opportunity to support community beautification and ultimately prepare for World Cup. There's no way that we want tourists, visitors in our area looking at, bus shelters, possibly going down that road of how, how social media is posting us out there. Let's go ahead and upgrade our bus shelters now. We already have chosen our prototype. I spoke of our prototype a couple weeks ago at a standing committee. So it's a mesh metal style prototype bus shelter, solar lighting. It's used for high vandalized areas. It's aluminum, metallic color. So it will go well with the color scheme that we have now. It's something that I chose probably about a month ago. We already have a quote and we're ready to move forward. You did ask a question, could we use the ARPA funds to offset our contractual agreement for routes? Am I stating that correctly?
Well, probably, what I had specifically in mind was the route that got cut. I think that was Leavenworth Road.
So it's two routes, two of our low performing routes. It's 18th Street, 118 18th Street, and Leavenworth Road. We are optimizing Quindaro to cover Leavenworth Road up to 61st Street. So I will come in front of commission. Right now it's dated for September 30th. So I do look forward to that, to bring about our 2025 service alternatives to present to you. So of course, bus shelters will not go in place of the areas that we are cutting. We do have some bus stops, probably about, just off the top of my head, but maybe 6. And I will verify if there's a shelter there now. If there is one, we will work with KCATA to remove those shelters because of course they would not be an active stop. And then we can replace the shelters along Quindaro, the Argentine route, and then up some parts of State Avenue to stay within the qualified census tract area.
Okay, and that was what I was gonna ask. So, you already have a list of the specific 30.
Yes.
Because I would be interested in seeing exactly where those are. And you made a good point about what's coming up too, and how we want our city to be viewed in the best light for that, so.
Any questions regarding the vehicles?
Vehicles.
We did submit for 2 vehicles. We have 5 vehicles that we need to replace for our routes. So with ARPA funds, we can purchase 2 of the 5.
I did not have a particular question about that. It was more the transit shelters, where those are gonna go. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Davis?
Thank you, Mayor. I was also on that ARPA subcommittee back in 2022. And so I think it was just the 3 of us that are still here on well, for me, proverbially on the dais, for you on the dais. And I do remember that process. I will say this, I do not feel comfortable supporting this tonight It's 10:30. I'm getting texts from, from people like, what is going on? I think we need to think a little bit more carefully about how we go about reallocating these dollars and realize that if we just simply say, well, we didn't really have a process, we didn't really give opportunity, here's what it is, that's not what the community wants. It's just not. And for our staff, I think there's going to be a lot of risk there where people are going to feel like this was a staff-driven process as opposed to a community-involved process. And so I do think we need to have on threes, and we need to think through how do we involve the community so that they feel like, because these are ultimately their dollars. So how do we involve them so that they feel like they have a voice within the second round? And maybe it's a survey, maybe it's 1 or 2 events. I don't know what that looks like. Again, being sensitive on time, but I definitely would not be, I will not be supporting this tonight as it is presented. If we were to straight up take what is left over and divide it by the 11 of us, 10 commissioners and the mayor, it would be, a little over $800,000 for us to allocate. I mean, there could be a world where we can be a little bit more, not I want to say diplomatic, but kind of divide and have some sort of equality within this process to make sure that each district is benefiting, and that those in-district and at-large commissioners and the mayor are able to make those impactful investments within those particular areas, as opposed to, again, what is very much kind of staff-driven right now. And I appreciate the work that is here, but I think more communication needs to be done. I do think that we need to reiterate and remind ourselves what the differences are. I will also say, before asking some brief questions, I agree with the Livable Neighborhoods grant that should be included. It is a drop in the bucket since we have over $8 million unallocated. I was also very, very interested, and so I am interested in advocating for the Eisenhower track and fields that's there. That is in very, very much disrepair. It needs investment, and the impact that it will have not only for the community but for the school and its use is just, I mean, there's so many people that would benefit from that, including the community. And so those are some of the things I would have liked to have seen. Now, I will say, and I could be looking at this wrong, and again, we got this yesterday, so bear with me. I do not see a county breakdown and a city breakdown on the unallocated dollars. Do we have that available?
We do, and the majority of these dollars, all but very less than 100,000, are county funds.
Okay.
We have worked it out, or gotten clarification, I guess is a better way to say it, that the county can give grants to the city as a subrecipient. So in essence, it doesn't matter. The dollars don't matter if it was county or city, they can be used. What does matter is that more than half of these dollars have to be used for ARPA straight up. Okay, it's got to really qualify. And so that will limit what we can do. But we certainly can have more conversation about it as to, how that would look. But we're also on a time frame. We have 4 months in order not just to make a decision. This is 4 months to get things under contract. And if anything has to be bid, we have to have time to do that, which in most of these cases, things have to be bid. So I just offer that, in that it's time sensitive, and I apologize for putting the commission in that position. Frankly, it has been quite a task to untangle some of the records that we had to understand exactly how much money we had. And that just took time. And so it's, from there, we then have been working on and looking at the different requests. And Commissioner Davis, you just mentioned one of them with the football field and the track. And that particular project's not in a qualified census tract, and roughly about $1 million, but we did look at those things. And so we certainly could share that information too. And it's not that we couldn't do it, but it just depends on the combination of decisions that get made. Okay, which means that it's going to require some time. And we can certainly do on threes to get more feedback. Glad to do that if that's the direction. But you know, if there's any consensus to move forward on at least some of these, that would help us in terms of that 4-month runway that we've got.
Yeah. I'll just finish up, reiterating, yes, I think we need to take a second look. I don't know how the track and field doesn't qualify, but the HVAC for the community center does. So somebody would have to explain that to me. We can do that in on threes. I'll also reiterate the need for livable neighborhoods grants. Lastly, I'll say the village initiative, they have been on time and they have their transitional houses built. And Mr. George has been reaching out to myself and I know other commissioners because they were some of our first recipients, and they were subjected to market costs just like everybody else, and have had some difficulty getting those dollars. So I would just hope in these on threes we would all be able to put our touch and our stamp on it. Certainly, that is what I'm going to do if you all are going to ask for my vote. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Not to belinger this and conversation, the administrator has given notice that he will withdraw this item. And what will happen is we will have a special meeting so we can have further discussion and you can give the administrator clear direction at that time as to the allocations. There will be no vote on this item tonight. But I know Commissioner Burrows, no. Commissioner Lopez, no. Oh, Commissioner Lopez, okay.
Just a quick question for our administrators, staff, but why wasn't this brought up in the budget? And is there, that's why I said I want to see the numbers you see, not the numbers that you're presenting us. Why wasn't this brought up in the budget? Why was it, what other numbers are you going to be bringing up that should have been brought up in the future? What else are we not looking at that we need to look at?
Well,
And
these weren't
Cerner and all
brought up
that,
in-
everything.
These weren't brought up in the budget because we didn't have any numbers to bring into the budget. And number two, this is solely ARPA money, had nothing to do with the general fund budget. If we can't talk about extra cash, we can't talk about it in a budget process. So once we did the budget, it was like 4 days after we passed the budget, our CFO had information to share from our consultant on the availability of cash and for ARPA. So this is a dedicated fund using ARPA rules. It's not general fund money.
Well, it looks like a lot of this Dover AB is going to general fund or coming from general fund anyway.
There's projects that were not included in the 2025 budget because of revenue neutral that got put on a shelf. And because of time, we pulled off these projects that were in the queue that qualified under ARPA. So I guess what I'm saying is we had information in front of us of qualified projects. What we heard today is you want to spend some time discussing this and therefore we'll have a special.
Right, no, I get that. And then what else is on this shelf that we need to look at? Oh, you say this was on the shelf that, that we pulled off and well, what else is on the shelf that we need to look at?
Well, the quickest guide is look at the original budget preparation before revenue neutral in the capital side of all the departments. And that's a myriad, remember, we had to cut a total of $18 million just to balance this budget. And a lot of that were capital cuts as well as operational cuts.
Thank you, Commissioner Stikes.
Stites District 7. I'm not sure, and I've kind of changed the way I'm going to go about this now because David, you're saying that you're going to pull this and to have further discussion, but I'd be willing to bet that there was zero discussion with the other two cities that are within our county to discuss this additional money. But now there's that opportunity that they can be brought to the table to discuss this additional money. Sci-fi may be a topic of discussion again, since that was one of the only projects, line items that was 100% removed from our budget this year. I'm not sure when the plan is for the meeting. If that's, you're looking at next week or trying to get those on threes rolling. But I'd sure like to
Really not going to do on threes. What I'm hearing a
I
sentiment
thought I
here
heard that.
is
Okay.
a special session of all 11 of you. So you will hear your discussion one time
Okay.
at
well,
the same time. So
maybe staff or you or somebody between that now and that meeting might be able to reach out to the other two cities that are in Wyandotte County and ask them so that they can express their thoughts prior to that meeting. Thank you.
Also want to just add, there are a couple items that never surfaced during the budget process. Toward the end of our budget process came the issue of the TB outbreak. And in working with the federal and state officials, we needed to have additional resources identified to deal with this longer term. And that's okay, that's ARPA qualified. We need to get this as part of our attack of the TB outbreak. The other one that is out here is a Spanish-speaking navigator for helping the Hispanic population find medical care with the closing of Duchesne Health Clinic, which was a major Hispanic health provider. And when they closed on June 30th, the other, what we're hearing from the other safety net clinics is, one, we can't fill that void. And two, we need people who can talk to the Hispanic community to guide them to healthcare that doesn't exist today. And therefore, the health department was willing to step up and contract with a navigator to provide that service if that's the desire of this commission. So those things did not happen till the need rose like cream to the top, that we need to somehow address these issues with now. So you didn't hear all this stuff during the budget process because we didn't know about it in the budget process.
And I guess, thank you for that. And I think the other thing that I would like, hopefully that we get some more discussion on, because we also didn't talk about this in our budget, was the Cerner settlement and the $9 million or that where that's going within our community. So maybe we'll be able to talk about that at the same time.
Well, we sent a memo to all of you that was revealed. That was revealed in October of last year. And that was a negotiation between the Cerner folks and the state. They asked us to be the pass-through for local groups. And therefore, that's the role we're playing here.
Well, I appreciate that. And I don't know that this is the location where I want to get into that discussion, but I don't know that the Cerner folks knew all the places to allocate these dollars. So, but anyway, we'll have that discussion offline, not here.
Thank you, Commissioner Lopez.
Yeah, Administrator, that deal you were talking about, that Spanish speaking healthcare thing that closed. Well, there's a great one at 8611 State Avenue. It's been open for a while. It's great. The doctor is a surgeon. He has his own, these Spanish speaking people there. Has his own healthcare plan. It's phenomenal. I don't know why we don't look at that, but that's a great place. Thank you.
All right, thank you. What will happen? We will get this scheduled, commission and public, for further discussion. and get these ARPA dollars spent in short order because there is a timeline. That concludes the portion of our regular meeting, and I'm gonna adjourn us in that capacity. I'll entertain a motion to both adjourn as the Board of Commission and call us back to order as the Land Bank Board of Trustees.
So moved.
There's a
Townsend,
motion.
second.
There's a motion and a second. Clerk, roll call, please.
Roll call Davis,
Aye.
Bynum. Aye. Burrows,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Lopez.
Aye.
Stites, motion carries.
Okay, we are now the Land Bank Board of Trustees, and we are dealing with our consent agenda. Do any members of the commission or county administrator wish to set aside any item on the Land Bank consent agenda? All right, hearing none. There was a motion. I will accept that motion. I need a second.
David,
Townsend,
second.
There is a motion, a second. Clerk, roll call.
Roll call Davis,
Aye.
Bynum. Aye. Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Lopez,
No.
Stites.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, there are no further items on tonight's agenda. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
David, second.
There's a motion and a second. Clerk, roll call.
Roll call Davis,
Aye.
Bynum. Aye. Burrows,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Lopez,
Aye.
Stites. Motion carries.
Thank you all. Have a good evening and have a awesome Labor Day weekend.